Okay, so hi everyone. This is our weekly live, and I'm trying to make sure Chris is going to be late. He texted that he's running about 30 minutes late, so I do have Pinky here with me. And we're going to go ahead and start without him, and then we'll just see what happens as we progress. But I just want to make sure that that we're live on Facebook, and I always forget about Instagram. The Facebook comments will populate. Immediately, but it doesn't say we're live on. Oh, now we're live on Instagram. So I'll try to remember to look back at that, but I forget, and that's why I need I need Chris to be part of this, is because I cannot remember all of this. All right, so we've had a lot happening, and I want to start this week by clarifying some of our goals here. And one of our goals is to provide you with a safe space or a container to discuss anything that's happening that is bothering you. So the ways that you can is, if you want to be on here with us, I can send you a link through Messenger, or you can just participate via the chat. So, and yes, I have a big mess behind me, I am aware. Thank you. So for the first 30 minutes before Chris gets here, I wanted to maybe continue some of the conversation we were having. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember, but it's talking about the bigger picture things with what's happening, in the macro, like with the matrix itself, with the quote simulation, with all of these things before we dive into what's happening within our own individual constructs. Okay. And so, I know Pinky, you and Chris have great banter regarding politics, but is there anything like big picture that you would want to bring up before we dive into more of the, spiritual matrix type of things?
No, I'm just lurking,
You're lurking. Okay, I got it. Lurking. All right. All right.
just listening.
Which is a perfectly reasonable answer. So that's great. All right. So we don't have to look very far right now to see the split that's happening between we some people will call them dimensions, some people will call them densities. It's, pick your term. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. But I want to just kind of pick up there because I got a lot of good feedback last week about what where your questions are. And so again, if you want to participate, just let me know. But if we look at the simulation that we're in, the matrix, you've seen it. Sorry, let me move my board just slightly and find the one black dry erase marker that eludes me on the daily, because I always put it somewhere on this huge ass desk that I made, and then I can't find it. Oh, anyway, we'll use this color. All right, green. But when we think about what we call ascension and moving from 3D to 5D, we've often represented it like this, like an apartment building, right? There's the third floor, the fourth floor, the fifth floor, and then we're trying to find, if you can see that, yeah. We're trying, and I know it's reversed, sorry, but we're trying to find that spot where Earth here becomes Earth here. Okay, through that process we call ascension. But as we have grown and our understanding has grown and our awareness has grown, we understand that it's not just one timeline split. We understand that it's actually more of a bifurcation, but that bifurcation again is another bifurcation, another bifurcation, another bifurcation. And I offer this up as explanation for what's really happening around us. And does anyone remember the debate about the dress? Was the dress gold and white? Was the dress blue? And was this 2017? And some people were like, oh my God, that dress is absolutely, for me, it was white and gold, right? For other people, it was blue, and I don't remember the other color, but blue and black maybe. And like, how can you look at that and see something different? And then we have other examples as well that we sometimes term the Mandela effect. And so for me personally, I remember, from my experience, Nelson Mandela transition to spirit when I was in school, because I remember watching it. We lived in the country. We had like 3 TV channels. It was on all of them, and then someone will come along and try to tell me I'm remembering wrong when I'm very clear. And I know a lot of people who are very clear. So the question is, how are we all having these realities that seem to be happening? They're coexisting, but they're not the same. Oh yeah, Chris is here. Let's play mine. And so I'll take just a moment to finish this, and then we'll change subject. So maybe it's not what we were between 3 to 5D like this. I mean, maybe it's a different kind of construct completely, right? And the simplest one would be like, it's like we're on this timeline and then it bifurcates, but then this one bifurcates and then this one bifurcates and this one bifurcates and this one bifurcates and this one bifurcates. And so it just continues to grow and expand in all directions. Kind of think of it like a spider web that continues to grow and expand. And whichever one of these little things you're on at any given minute, right, is the experience you're going to have, is the awareness you're going to have. And so if we think about this from the perspective of that gold and white dress or that blue and black dress, right? So someone here, down here, is going to look at that dress and be like, that is definitely blue and black. And someone up here is going to look at that dress and say, that is definitely gold and white. From our perspective, we're all seeing the same dress, but are we? Because if we're on actually different densities of experience, and again, this is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, which is a better artist. We're sharing, we're coexisting in a multi-reality. And I offer that up as a possibility for what's happening now. And the goal then would be to how to create a space where we all share equity, and space in this multi-reality without collapsing into sameness. And knowing that everybody's coming, from a slightly different timeline here, or a slightly different density, a slightly different perspective, and finding a way to coexist without dominating each other, without collapsing each other, without demanding everyone be like us. So I think that is the big goal from, the matrix / universe perspective. And I wanted to start with that because the next things we're going to talk about are really important on the level of this and how everyone's going to have. And Chris, I did not put us on TikTok yet. If you can hear me, I was waiting on you because I can't watch that in this. And I can't watch Instagram in this. I'm not that talented. Oh, he popped out. He'll come back. So anyway, I want to lay that as the groundwork for what we're going to talk about. So what if we are having different realities inside a shared experience, a co-experience, and our job becomes how to coexist without collapsing each other into our individual reality. So I'm going to see if I can put us on TikTok now. I did not without you, Chris. I don't know if you heard that or not, because I don't know. You can watch TikTok, not me. Listen, we're at the capacity of my abilities. And maybe I can't do it while we're live. But we did get approved again, but I don't anticipate that to last very long. Oh, okay. Maybe we are. Well, it says sending data. So let's see. And I titled this week Meaningful Conversations to Signal the Matrix, which is, we're streaming now. What we're trying to do here by creating this container, right, for these conversations to
check.
Yeah, check. You're good.
Okay.
Signal to make a signal, and a signal is like a messaging, right, within our matrix or our shared co-reality, our experiences like this. So
I was listening to what you're saying, and I would say that's always been true. We all have different realities. That's, you know what I mean? It's always been the case. And I'm not trying to diffuse what you're saying as much as I would like to put it in perspective that, yeah, I think that's the goal, period. Like, to appreciate into, like you said, I mean, you beautifully put it because you're so eloquent on this, that we have to learn how to coexist and appreciate the differences that we all have. Because, even on a slight sense of, the experience, I was just listening to something today that just really hit this nail on the head, and it had to do with projection. And, somebody telling you about how you're feeling, and it's because they're living in their reality and they have their experience. And so, I guess my point is, yeah, we're all coming from this. We're all trying to find a common ground to come and meet each other, and to be able to dance around this rock that we're on.
Yes. Did you hear the start of it? Or I mentioned the dress, that was it gold or white, or was it blue and black? Because the next question I'm going to ask, and I'm
Okay.
asking, I'm not saying, is based on that. So is it possible that in these shared realities that there is one version where, let's just use, Renee, where, she definitely did not, we're on TikTok. I don't know what I can say and what I can't, but where she definitely did not have the intersection with that officer. And then there is a different reality where one reality where she definitely did, one reality where she definitely did not. So I'm saying, and so is it possible that is happening, that we are all, like on a spider web here, and we are experiencing things as we are, and we're experiencing them in a way. Hey, Pinky, I think I'm getting static from your phone hearing myself. Or is that you, Chris? Because you don't have
Is it
headphones
me?
on. Maybe try your headphones.
Okay.
Because I can hear me. But is it possible? And I'm just asking the question before we dive into the other things. I'm asking the question: is it possible that, I see what you're saying about we're all living in our own realities, because if you look at, we have definitely created our own social structures, our own cultural structures, our own religious structures, our own socioeconomic structures. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like something like an attractor event that is happening right now in our country, like with ICE. And that event, is it possible that event is actually playing out or being demonstrated or being propagated within our matrix, within our earth construct, in different ways? Instead of a singular event, it's a multi-event. And that is why so many people are so sure that it went this way. And so many people are so sure it went this way. And there's everywhere in between, because they're experiencing it from not just from a different, I'm not saying a different lens, I'm saying a different reality.
So let me stop you, because right here, and because I don't know if, I understand, and I'm checking myself. I'm checking myself before I'm wrecking myself, because I don't know if I'm triggered by what you're saying, because I do believe what I'm hearing from you, and the question is drawn out, is it's kind of giving, what do you call it, a lot of grace for the people who didn't see, the way that I saw it.
It's not giving grace at all, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. Like, it's okay because these people are not okay. You're right. I'm not saying that it's okay, but yeah, that there are people that see this in a whole different, that come from it from a whole different reality. Who gives a fuck?
Okay,
who
back
gives
up
a
though.
fuck?
Wait, back up. Wrong explanation. And again, I'm asking a question. I'm not saying this is true.
Got it.
I'm
But
saying that is it possible that we are in totally different realities?
I'm not against you and what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is,
you're using a perspective. I'm using a reality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, a totally different reality. Just like the same people that looked at the, the golden white dress and the black and blue dress, or the Mandela effect, right? We know that timelines split and then they come back together. We know that narrative timelines are splitting all the time. And I'm asking the question. I'm not saying it's true. We already know how I feel about this, but I'm asking if this could be a moment for us to maybe at least consider that we all are living in very different realities. And I don't mean our lens, and I don't mean the container we live in, because from my perspective, there's no question. I mean, we've discussed this again and again. I have a lot of content on, social media. I got basically called a race traitor yesterday by someone.
I saw that.
That I only stand up for black and brown men and not white men. But which was interesting, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a really hard concept. I mean, what if we are really in different realities? And what if in our reality, I'm using reality differently than I think you are.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not using it as a lens or a perspective or what your trauma scaffolding or narrative is going to give you, right? I'm using it differently. I'm
I
saying
see what you're
that,
saying. You're saying that I'm using it in a sense of my experiences and the lens that I'm seeing things
right. Well,
through.
I think that's how you're using it. So if people are watching the video, then any videos can be changed by us. So what do we know what the truth really is? Well, and that's I mean, it's a little bit what I'm leading to. So okay, let's separate this. My reality, and by this, I'm going to say my timeline. The timeline I'm in right now, there's absolutely no question. Okay, no question whatsoever. That she was that Renee Good did not pose any kind of threat to him. He was not hit. It was absolutely just execution. No question whatsoever.
Mhm.
Alex Preddy, absolutely no question. 1,000%. He was, and today they released that he was actually two different officers executed him. There's no room for error on this, in my opinion. None. There's no grace given, period. What I'm asking is there like a sideways or an upside down, or, we can all establish that we're kind of in some kind of funky reality from 2016 on, but could there be more than one? And we are coexisting on the earth, but we're in totally different timelines. And in their timeline, the reason they're so adamant that it happened and the reason they're doubling down, maybe their NPCs being controlled by the Matrix from our perspective, but maybe in their perspective, their reality, their real reality, their video shows something else. I'm asking, I'm
So
not saying it. I'm just asking the
got
question.
it. And I'm wondering what your question is. But what you're telling, what I can understand is that you're saying is there's some kind of connection, intersection of all these realities right now happening. That's what you're
Yes.
saying, right? Okay. And
Yes.
I would say, even if you were talking about realities, it's still a perspective because it's based on the experience that you have. I want to point that out.
Okay, but you're still missing the point that in theirs, it's different. They're not interpreting the video differently. They have a different video.
I understand. So you're saying it's kind of science
Yeah.
fiction. Like they have this other alternative reality video, and I don't know. And it
Maybe we're not ready for this conversation.
no. I love it. I love it. I love this stuff because I would say, who cares? What does it matter? In my reality, this is what's happening. If you're like a visitor from another reality, welcome.
But
I don't care
it's a
what the fuck you
shared
say.
earth. It's a coexistence. It's not,
Right.
we're not sharing realities, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. I get it.
We are not sharing timelines.
But it doesn't matter because the reality that I saw, how do I put this? So I could have experienced something, my cat dying. Oh my God, I'm going to start crying. I love my cat. I love my cat like nothing else. I raised that cat from a baby. I fed it. To me, yeah, I'm going to say something that's crazy. To me, that was my child. Even though it really wasn't a human being, I've never loved anything as much as I did my kitten. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that is a reality. That is the direction that I am coming from. That's also my perspective, right? And no matter what you say or where you go, I can say, well, the reason why I feel so much pain and anger because a defenseless person, Renee Good, Alex Purdy, was basically executed on the streets. Maybe because, yeah, I had to put my cat down, and that was the worst fucking thing I ever could have done. So, yeah, I could be projecting. This could be the lens that I'm looking in. Like I said, it doesn't matter. The point is that it exists in whatever timeline we're at, right? Whatever intersection we're at. And I'm not arguing against you. I know what you're saying.
I know.
I know you hate what happened, and I know you're not forgiving it. But my thing is, it doesn't matter what blue,
yes,
what
Alicia.
color,
Yes.
what color the dress is. That's inconsequential. Those are inconsequential facts that don't mean anything to anybody except for whoever's in that timeline.
Okay. So,
right?
So first of all, I know how much you loved your baby, and it doesn't I will Animals are sentient beings. They can
Well,
be our children. They
my
can be our
point to that,
soulmates. Anything. So
my point to that is that I see my kitten as my child, even though it's not
yes.
really my child. So that's what
Well,
I
I mean,
want
who
to.
says that child's? I mean, but who says not, right? I mean, that could have been your kid from 14 lifetimes, and this time just came in as a kitten.
Oh wow.
Whatever. I mean, we have soul connections that aren't limited to just. I mean, I am forever bound to a tree by a blood covenant here. So who am I to
Mm.
judge? That tree and I are bound forever because of that.
So like in the
Taking on
example,
my blood.
like Alicia said, so like living the Berenstain and the
Yes.
Berenstain and the Berenstain, to me, that's inconsequential.
Okay, but can I get you to take a big step back? Your lens is too close.
Sure.
Okay. Because the thing you're still in one reality and you're using perspective as your lens. I'm not asking about that. Okay. I'm asking the question that if we
Okay.
look at these timelines, right, and they bifurcate, meaning that we are living in, I'm not talking about reality as in a perspective or your upbringing or your trauma or your narrative scaffolding or
Got it. I
anything
understand that.
else or your country. I am asking the question and I'm asking, could it be that we are in completely different earths, right? Sharing an experience, but those earths are very different. And so the events are different. And our goal is to understand that we are experiencing different realities, like true different earths, different realities, and learning to coexist, knowing that those are very different while creating the ones that we need for safety without trying to demand the other side yield to us or us yield to them. Right. And this is a very this is harder than fuck. I mean, I'm telling you, this has been really messing up my head for the last, day. But what if, and I've been very, very clear on how I feel about this and I'm not talking about my lens. I'm talking about my freaking reality, my timeline, my earth, right? Both of those people were executed. And this is an absolute shit show. There's absolutely no excusing it whatsoever. And so that is so solid in my belief system. But what I'm asking is it possible that there is a parallel earth or
So
a
I should just
parallel
say
timeline?
yes, it is possible. If
And
you
that,
accept quantum physics, it is
yes.
possible.
Okay. So is it possible that in theirs,
Not
the
only
event,
possible, but it's true. We are living. There are different
yes, we do know
parallels.
this. Yes.
Yes.
But what if in theirs, right, wherever they are, it was let's take the AI videos and let's take the lies and let's take the NPC shit out of it for a minute.
Mhm.
And let's really talk about what if in their reality, it was a completely different experience. What if it wasn't what ours was at all? I want to take it actually away from Renee Good and Alex Preddy for a minute. Let's take it to, something far less a hot topic for the moment. So let's come up with, you know, let's say that
Greenland.
you want to take it to Greenland. Okay. So let's say that in,
Well, if you didn't have anything else, I'm just suggesting.
well, I mean, that's still kind of I'd like to take it to something more historical, away from us just for a moment. So let's take it to a fictitious event in 1980. Okay. And let's say that in 1980, there was this spaceship that landed, in the lawn of the White House. And in 1980, there were, thousands of people that went there and they had these interactions and they talked to the beings and they saw it. And it was absolutely true. 100% true. No questioning it whatsoever. There were pictures, there's a narrative, there's memory, there's evidence, all. But then there's people over here that were in same time, same place, that did not see it, that did not have that experience, that do not have that history, that do not have that narrative, that do not have that, the memory or the evidence, right? And so when you're coming out and you're saying, but look at the evidence, look at this photo, right?
The observation.
Well, I'm talking about more than just observation. I'm talking about an experience as a participant. Right? Because I'm talking about two distinct different worlds.
I was equating
that are sharing a space.
observation. I was equating observation as experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was doing the no, quantum, because actually you can't be an observer. You have to be a participant, because the moment you are observing, you are actually participating, and then you are altering, the experiment, because there is no such thing as a neutral observer. But
Yeah, that's where I was. Yeah.
yeah, but being a participant, and also, having the experiment and the experience of it. But what if, right? What if that's the case? I mean, what if they're totally different worlds, but they're coexisting in the same, construct of the simulation, if you will?
So I'm lost though, because we know that to be true. That's if you accept quantum theory, that is the truth.
Right.
What was that?
I have no idea.
Oh, that was my tablet.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what's
Sorry,
up,
Pinky.
Pinky? Hi.
Hi.
But
So-
what if? I mean, so what if? And what if that is the real, thing happening here, is the people that are, and again, my timeline, it is concrete, it is certain, there's no question they were executed. There's no question what's happening with our administration.
Right.
There's no question. And the only thing I asked, Spirit was like, well, what else? I mean, what else should I know here? What else is happening? What else could I consider as a possibility for this? Right. And it was, what if they're actually in a completely different timeline than you? And what if they're having a completely different experience than you?
And but shouldn't that always be like, yes, let's say they are.
Okay.
They're visitors. Or maybe I'm the visitor. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, go sit over there. If you don't want to believe what's happening.
But then they could flip that on us and say, but you don't want to believe what's happening?
Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm wacky.
So,
I'm in this timeline. You're not. So go over there.
so the question I have here, and because Karen just said, so what in the world that we believe these two people were murdered, then how do we hold the people accountable? So in our reality, do we get justice? And again, I'm
Exactly.
asking a hard question. Okay. I'm asking a hard question. I'm not saying this is true. I'm asking what if. I've just been asking Spirit, what if, what else, what if, what else, to try to, what happens when we start narrowing our perspective is that we lose sight of bigger pictures. We lose, sight of optionality. We lose sight of, our reticular activating system has filtered all these things out. And one of the things we can do is take a big step back, reactivate or open up, our RIS, and then ask ourselves, what is it I could be missing? And that is my question. So it's not that, they don't, I'm not talking about so much the institutions and the government in this scenario. What I'm talking about are the individuals.
And
who
what
are
about them?
so certain. Well, and that's my question is, where are we going to best serve ourselves and our particular reality? And it's not going to be fighting with the people that believe the dress is gold and black. Because
I'm with you. That's what I meant. Like, go sit down.
Yeah.
You go sit down. We'll take care of this.
And so it's about recognizing that the potential, right? And we know this in quantum physics that we are living in different realities, different, not perspectives. Again, I'm going to keep saying this again and again. It's not the container of you or your family or your culture or your block or your religion.
I would say those are very similar.
I'm talking about very different worlds.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But I would say you can, they're very, very similar. But okay, I'm with you.
Right. Okay. So my question, again, this is a question. I'm not making a statement as to true or not. I'm just trying to get us to open up, right, our perspectives a little bit to look at things from a different lens. Because the idea of, justice, like as Karen brought up, which is an excellent question, justice belongs to the level of, those that were murdered in our timeline. And that's where we focus, not on, the individuals who are okay, let me say this a different way. If we accept that all those people that are running around saying the dress was blue and black, or we accept that the people running around saying that, she hit him with a car, or, that Alex was waving his firearm, which is absolutely not true in every capacity. If we accept the case that in our world, they're NPCs, right? They're just background noise, if you will. just meant to further divide us, distract us, make us feel, less powerful. Do you need something, Avery? Oh no.
Wait,
Yeah, another topo.
Wait, in
our world.
conversation, you're talking about Alex and Renee being NPCs or the people that are distracting us?
I'm sorry, one more second. What? No, I'm not. But thank you. Sorry, my sweet girl was checking on me if I need anything, and you can't hear her with these in. No, I'm not saying they're NPCs. What I'm saying is the people that are supporting this, the people online, the people that are, from our perspective and mine as well, that are just lying out their asses, right?
Right.
They're lying. They're saying that, he was lucky to be alive. They're saying whatever Trump says. Okay. But my question is if in our reality, our world, and again, I keep using, but in our world, our reality, our timeline, they're NPCs and noise for us, right? And our job is to navigate that, to get justice and so forth. What if there's another reality that they're in, that we're their NPCs and we're the noise?
But okay, yeah, I come from the understanding and the belief that that's just true.
Okay. So what do we do? We have to learn to what?
Well, first of all, accept whatever role you want to play in whatever version of reality you choose to want to be in.
Thank you. You can take more Tylenol if you're hurting, sweetheart.
For example, I mean,
okay.
I know you're not talking about perspectives.
No, I'm not talking about perspectives.
But I can totally as easily not identify or follow or accept what's happening, be a musician and just go on, playing and just being oblivious to the realities that's happening around us. And really feel like that's the real reality, and none of this matters. So you're right. I could easily be, and if you accept quantum theory, I am that person. I am all of these people, right?
Right.
So my point is that is happening. I was just chiming in to say that is the truth. We are NPCs in some other reality.
Right. Exactly. Which is my question. Okay, so it was just a question I had about different realities and how we create things like we perceive as a Mandela effect with, the dress, green or white, blue or black, Mandela, the sex in the city, and the city, all of these things. And then we have these horrific things happening. And I think the whole reason I was asking the question to myself, in a spirit is, how can we use this to help us? And one, it is realizing that maybe they're not really in our reality. They're creating their own over there, right? So we don't want to give them our power. We don't want to argue with them on the internet and try to get them to see what we see because they're seeing something else. But that doesn't mean we don't create change. But by using our voice and our energy and our bandwidth and our consciousness, to fight them instead of fighting who's really the problem, right? Doesn't that just keep us kind of stuck in a loop of feeling powerless and feeling stuck and feeling hopeless and not really, in other words, I'm saying fight the governance systems and not the NPCs.
I agree with you. And there's one, and I'm going to veer just slightly, but to actually support your statement here. And that is this. So I was doxxed by Cat Turd and by Libs of TikTok on Twitter. And I'm getting death threats. I've been put, and I have my accounts taken away. And I constantly am living with people saying they're gonna kill me or whatnot. Now I've been down this road before, and it's never been this bad, except for one thing. I've had more threats this time around, but nothing's ever come to fruition. And it made me think about one thing, that all of this stuff is bullshit that we're seeing on the side of, I would say, the MAGA side. I would say it's the 80-20 rule, that at 20% of all the crap that we're getting are from real people that buy into this bullshit, but the 80% are just bots and people trying to divide us.
That's
Because
exactly my point.
because I can walk out of my house safe. I wasn't able to do that the first time I was doxxed. And I'm getting all these threats and they don't mean anything. And every time I look up these people that say these things, they're bots.
Yeah.
I look on their accounts, they're bots. So we're being played here. We're being told that because I hear liberals, and I hate saying that, liberals. I keep on hearing Americans say that half the country is MAGA. Bullshit. I call bullshit. If you look at the numbers, it's less than a third of the people that even voted for the felon. And I would say it's even 20% of those people that are really hardcore. Yes, Alex Pretty deserved to die because he did whatever, and Renee Good deserved it too. There's always going to be people out there like that. So I've come to the conclusion that I'm just not going to deal with these people. Screw you. Like, say what you want. Who cares? I'm just going to block you because I don't want your poison on my page or whatever. And the same thing goes with anybody that I know. If you want to support this, go sit over there. Yeah,
I made that comment like 2 weeks ago and pissed a bunch of people off. But so going one more example of this might be when, as a medium, I talk to people who've crossed into spirit all the time. And one of the things is that heaven is not universal, or the afterlife, or the energy plane, whatever you want to call it. It's not universal. And that is that it's whatever you need. So, when I've talked to people in spirit, they have woken up in a hospital in heaven, or one guy woke up leaning against a tree. He used to sleep up, against when he was a kid, a lot by a pond. Some people they were greeted by their family. Some people went through the light. Some people went through, all of these experiences. And so, maybe some people are just having whatever real reality they need to expand maybe their own. I don't want to use learn. That's so, such a collapsing and reductionist term, to learn, but to expand, to have the experiences that they're needing to have, and that their reality really is different than ours. But the question or the task ahead of us is to not let that, really impact us, and not make it so that we are, losing our power by fighting them, instead of fighting for the world that we want. Because there's no question. I mean, and I want to circle back to Lisa Kippenberger's comment. Like, if people are watching the videos and anything can be changed by AI, when AI almost always has a bit of a signature, you can tell. The picture that they're circulating now, the Ice Age doesn't even have a head. It's really, really obvious. And so that's the thing, is that you can really tell, and also go to, multiple videos. And I believe people that witnessed it over any governance institution too. Like right now, I have zero faith in our government. I'm not going to believe anything they have to say,
Amen.
And so it's, I believe I'm always team humanity. And I believe the people. So Karen said, there was no such thing as bots or social media, and Jim Jones got 900 people to drink the Kool-Aid and died. That psychological control. I think that's what's going on here. Too many people drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, that's absolutely, a possibility. And 900 people is actually pretty low historically compared to other
Can
leaders.
we get 900 maggots to drink some Kool-Aid?
You're on TikTok. You're going to get me banned.
Sorry.
I got banned for a week last time, and I don't even know why.
It's probably me.
I probably did it by myself, and that's from our perspective and our reality. Yes, it's psychological control. What I'm asking is there a parallel reality here where it's different, where it's really different? And I'm not asking to excuse anything or give grace to anything. I'm just asking us to think about it, because if we think about it, and by the way, shit just moved across my desk as I said that by itself. Again, it's been happening. That little thing turned on yesterday by itself, and then that just, this thing just fell and two things moved, and not even near it, and it's been there for days. So energy's weird. But if it is that we are living in very different realities, than someone else, and we're just sharing like a co-experience of the earth construct, then where is our energy best spent, right? And it is going to be really creating the world that we want. And that's more what I wanted to get into today, because I just kind of posed this question because you weren't here. Yeah, it was, what about, I want to talk about Trump's executive orders, Project 2025, 2026, what's coming down the pipeline, and what the fuck is really happening behind the scenes, because we're all so fixated on the noise that we're missing the big picture of what's happening behind the scenes.
The big picture is that he's not releasing those damn files. And all of this is just noise to cover himself up from the crimes that he's committed to these young victims.
That is one facet, but it's certainly not the big picture. The big picture, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Nope.
No, go ahead.
I want to acknowledge what you're saying. You were going to say something because Karen also, I wanted to acknowledge what she said. It says, well, what I mean is that they all followed one guy and believed what he said. So that's crazy. They didn't think for themselves. And I was thinking the same thing. And I know you're trying to distinguish between realities from perspectives, and I still say I don't know
you guys aren't following at all what I'm saying, so let's just kind of table that. We're not on the same page at all with that conversation. One's following it, so let's just move it to the side. Because if you were, it would be a different conversation, because in their reality it wasn't, it would be different. It wouldn't be what our reality is. It would literally be that she ran him over and he died.
So why are you bringing that up? I want to explore that further.
Well, because maybe, just maybe, if we accept that people are having different true realities, right? And so that's why they're coming at it so hard, and that we're just sharing a space of the earth construct. We can reorganize our fucking energy where it is, and they go the fuck away.
Okay.
In other words, we're pulling them into our existence by fighting with them. We're pulling them in. We know this. We know that for anything to appear, quantum physics says what? In order for anything to appear, you have to what? Observe it. And we know you can't really be an observer. You're a participant. And so if they really are having a separate reality over there, right, that is theirs, where it's totally different than ours, and it's not a difference of perspective, it's not a difference of what the video show. I mean, it's an actual different thing happened for them in their reality.
You're telling from another universe,
yes, like a multiverse.
Yeah,
yes,
timeline.
Yes.
Yes.
If that's the case, then every time we fucking engage them, we pull them more into our fucking reality. That's what I'm talking about. That's the whole point. And that's why I was, tiptoeing, trying to build a framework around it, because that's such a hard idea. And I know it's a hard idea. But I want them, if we have to share the earth construct, I want them to have as little interaction with us as possible.
So in your scenario here, in your conversation and how you set it up, what about the people that are our loved ones? Like my sister's totally into MAGA. Are they coming from another timeline? Is she coming from another timeline?
The only thing that would really determine that is what they really and truly know happened, not what they're if they're just propagating some bullshit because it's told from them from above, like Karen's talking about, that's just psychological.
Understood, but I'm talking about the framework that you just set up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, so how do we deal with the people that are in our own families when we're going to them saying, hey, sister or dad, I just saw, Alex Pretty getting executed on the street. Well, that didn't happen.
So do they truly, truly believe it didn't happen? Or are they just repeating what they're told? Like, in other words, are they under a governance control like an NPC, and they're just repeating what they're told because they don't have the bandwidth to consider anything else?
But what if they're just from a different timeline?
And then that's possible. I mean, you and I both have really strong stories of, sort of like rebirths that are very atypical, right? So we're going to be on a very different experience than a lot of people. And we're sharing this earth construct, this matrix. But that doesn't mean we have the same realities. And right. I'm not talking about a perspective or even a container. I'm talking about they're living in an actually different branch inside this simulation, but our branches are crossing each other like a spider web does. And so we're
So
having these moments where we intersect, but we're not on the same branch.
to entertain that question, and fuck, I know you don't like that word, to go in to follow that train of thought. And I'm repeating myself. First of all, I dig your premise, or I dig your solution to not even deal with these people, because that's what it comes down to. Like, who gives a fuck where you're from or what your framework is? This is my reality. You don't belong here. You can go sit down. You don't have to be part of this solution, to this problem. Let us take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is going on. What you just, who said?
Yeah, there's a delay. I don't know which one.
But because I don't know. I'm interested in what you're saying, because it seems like I'm missing the point here. You're asking the question, but I wonder what the question is. Is the question whether or not we should deal with these people and just move on to what's real?
My question, I don't know that's a question as much as it is just a wondering, okay, at this point. But how do we reconcile this without destroying ourselves? And if they, and I'm not giving grace, and I'm not giving latitude. I'm very, very clear, and I've been very, very clear
Right.
On what's happened, in my reality, that the world I live in, and it's very, very clear. And in our shared reality, we talked about last week, we have NPCs, right, that are just fill the background noise. Their bandwidth is very, very low. They have the virtual headset on. All they're going to do is tell, what the governance system, which happens to be our government, is going to tell them, right? They're just running programs. They're not sovereign. They're not awake. They don't have any of those things. So they're just flat out. Actually, I think I did that one separate. And the one I'm talking about wasn't with you. It was the one I did over maybe the weekend or something. I don't know. Too many days. Time is funny. I'm very unanchored with time right now. But with that being said, if we are truly like, the multiverse, right? Experiencing all these multi-realities within a multiverse, and just sometimes our realities, converge, and what their reality is what they say it is, and our reality is what we say it is. And then we need to know the difference between them and the difference between NPCs. But mostly what we need to know is all of this is, and I'm not going to use the word test, what I'm going to say is a moment where we choose. And I get what you say when you're saying it doesn't matter, but I don't want to, and I know your level of understanding can support that, but we're trying to help others. And so we don't want to engage in something that could look like spiritual bypassing, because that's what that would be. None of this fucking matters. It's spiritual bypassing, because we want to make sure, or at least we have a goal.
I guess when I say it doesn't matter on the topic of somebody from another universe intersecting with ours, what I mean it doesn't matter is that this is my reality. Like, you can come in from 8 million realities. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change how I want to react to what I see. And your opinion has no consequence in that. Oh, that didn't happen in my reality. Okay. It happened in mine. And so right. I'm not fluffing it off. I'm not saying it. I guess I can seem aloof a lot of times, but what I mean by it doesn't matter, it's inconsequential to whatever action and decisions I make in this new reality that's being constructed from this intersection of this other reality.
Right. Like, but does it change things if you think about the fact that they're not lying?
No, it doesn't change things. Of course, I mean, because just like people who have their own perspectives, that they don't change the way I feel just as much as these people from another reality doesn't change the way I feel and how I'm going to proceed. Who gives a fuck what they think? I mean,
okay, let's just table this. We're not getting there. Let's just table it, because it's not about what they think, and it's not about their perspective. I'm talking about in their reality, in their world. It didn't happen. Right. And
it doesn't matter.
It does
to me.
So
to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things. I'm interested if you come from another universe where that didn't happen, believe me, I'm totally interested. I want to sit down. I want to talk to you about it. And I want to listen to your thoughts. But you know what? This is my reality, and I'm going to choose to go this direction.
Okay. I want to disable it. It's not getting through the way I meant for it to. So,
Well, maybe just not for me.
I
What
don't
if
think it's
somebody
getting
else
through.
is
I
probably
think
getting
it's
it?
not something we can really discuss at this point.
Wait a minute. Whoever is out there listening, is it getting through to
No,
you?
it's not.
Maybe I'm
It's
not
not.
getting
I
it.
can tell. Let's just table it because I'll close it with this. But
I think it's
but
interesting.
what if we're
topic.
in their world, right? And it didn't happen, and we're insisting it did, and we're trying to change their reality
But why would that matter?
because it does. Because we're creating a
you're right.
coexistence, and one side is trying to throttle the other. And what we're trying to do is create a space where we can express sovereignty with optionality, right? Without uniformity. And then when we say that this is the only reality, we're creating uniformity. We're creating a space where only one possibility exists, which collapses our branch, our matrix, our simulation. So instead of, pulling them more into our reality, we realize that they have their, I mean, I'm not using perspective. They live in theirs. We need to let them go live in theirs and not try to pull them into ours and make them collapse into ours and not collapse
I
into
agree.
theirs. That's why it matters.
I agree. So in other words, we're both saying the same thing. Just let him be.
Yes,
Go
but
sit
have
down.
the understandings. If we're not having the understanding that this is a possibility, then we're limiting ourselves for the next experience.
There's so much psychology there to unpack. It's
No,
so
this is all
it's so rich
quantum.
and
This
deep.
is not. This is all quantum. Physics. This is all multiple timelines.
But there's psychology mixed into this.
Well,
Definitely.
I mean, of course there are, but the bigger issue is that we are in a shared co-experience, and I just want to table it because I'm not gonna do it justice. It's just something I've been talking with Spirit about for the last day or so.
Damn it, we get an interesting topic and you want to table it.
First of all, I don't think I'm doing it justice. I think I'm just going to piss people off. So let's just move on.
But are you? Wait a minute. Is anybody getting pissed off out there? I want to know. Can you please type in the comments whether you understand or you're getting upset or like I think Inanna's reacting to things that I'm saying, but I'm not everybody.
No. I just remember my fingers on the pulse. Psychic, intuitive. I could just tell it's not getting through the way that I mean for it to.
I'm not a psychic, and I find this damn interesting, and I am into this thing, and I think, yeah. I think it's Michelle says I think it's interesting.
I mean, it's just something to think about, and then the next part is what do we do with it, right? Because you're saying just
Alicia says
you're saying just ignore it and focus on where you are. And I propose that if this is in fact what's happening, uniformity is not the answer. The answer for the growth of us as these avatars and operators inside this simulation is going to be where we can have different realities without making ourselves collapse into the other one, so that we're having multi-realities in this universe and focus on the one that's ours instead of the other one. Because what I'm saying very poorly is by realizing, again, there's a difference between, food for thought. Yeah. Yes.
Karen says, I understand. What do we do with it?
Yeah.
Fatima says, I think whatever Inanna chooses is okay, but I find anything said by Inanna is food for thought, and I can usually think on it over time if not understanding immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where we go from here is kind of I was trying to lay some groundwork for where we go from here. And that is to realize that if they're NPCs and they're just toeing the party line, that's
what are NPCs, for God's sake?
Chris?
NPCs are like they're people that really don't matter. That stands for non-player
Yeah, like
characters,
video games,
non-player.
background in movies.
And so in the video games, if you ever like play a video game and like you're like in a like maybe a sports game, everybody in the stadium, they're
Yeah.
NPCs or anybody who's not involved in the
Right.
game.
What does it stand for?
Non-player character.
Oh, okay. Oh, NPC.
Yeah, NPC. Yeah.
NPC.
Thanks, Pinky.
So I would like to answer your question. What do we do about this? Okay. As for a discussion, and I will try not to be aloof and do that. I will try to be more thoughtful. And that is, hi, welcome to our reality. I'm glad to be in your reality, the intersection of it. We got some serious shit that's been going on, so we're gonna take care of that. We're gonna take care of that. It doesn't really involve you, but I'm glad you're here. And once we take care of this, let's figure out how to move forward.
Okay.
But you have no say in this if that's the case. If your reality says that this did not happen, I can understand what you're going to say, but it didn't happen in our reality. How come we're going to have to accept yours and not ours? Yes. Yes. As far as I'm concerned, yes. You're going to have to accept my reality and that I'm going to have to take care of this situation. And then we could talk about how we can move forward.
Okay.
Welcome to hell.
So let's try to maybe expand this into another area.
Okay.
And that is right now, one of my hot topics that I've been trying to get everyone aware of since last summer is the be really careful. I think it's when I add the WHT word in here that I get in trouble with TikTok, but it's the Christian nationalist movement. And so I have been putting out content and trying to warn everybody of this going, back almost a year, honestly, but really started in the summer when I became aware of, the Project 2025, Project 2026, Project Esther, Doug Wilson, Dale Partridge, Jared Longfellow, Toby Sumter. And knowing that Doug Wilson, who is from Christchurch, actually has set up a church in DC, and Pete Hegseth is one of his parishioners. Pete Hegseth has started Pete Hegseth has started church services at the Pentagon for the Pentagon. I don't know if it's in the actual Pentagon, but for those that work at the Pentagon. And you can see them all lining up. Pete Hegseth has turned the government's, social media for, the Department of quote war and the Department of Labor and not just Pete Hegseth, but all of them. Their propaganda through social media now is all Christian nationalism. And they're calling for, one language, one culture, one country. And when we look at that, they're coming from whatever their reality is, and they're trying to force it on us. When you look at Project 2025 and Project 2026, you will see that it has been line by line by line Trump's playbook since he took office. And while he did the shock and awe with, issuing all of those executive orders, some of them silly, but inside of them were very dangerous ones that he was using to bypass the checks and balances, including, Congress and the Supreme Court. And because it was so many so fast, and because big money is big religion, right? Legislators were just kind of looking the other way. So in the same regard, we would ask the question, for those people that want to create a world where they are living, go forward and multiply, and they're creating, Project 2026 calls for histories of judges to be public so that you can only put judges in office that are anti-divorce, pro-family. They want to do away with no-fault divorce. They blame, of course, women and sex used outside of procreation for part of the downfall of the family. They are calling for, the end of all rights to LGBTQ plus communities. They're calling for the end to, they want to only make tax credits for married couples. They are trying to reestablish everything, like one biological male, one biological woman, and produce biological children, and that is it, and that's the gold standard. Even Trump's housing executive order is part of Project 2026. literally Project 2026. His executive order for establishing anti-Christian bias is the one that is allowing them to do things like you can't protest at a church with the guy that was the ICE, the pastor that was the ICE in that protest. That was one of the things that they were using that under. He has labeled anyone who defies, him. He's even now labeled weather insurrectionists inside his bullshit. Weather insurrectionists is a term he's using. He's loving that insurrection term because their executive orders that link back to it. He's labeled Antifa, anti-fascism, right? And a terrorist organization. All of this is from the Heritage Foundation. All of this is from Christian nationalism. All of this is from Project 2025, 2026, and Project Esther. Pete Hegseth, Trump, Miller, Vance are all part of this group. They are forcing, their world and trying to collapse us into their world, basically. And so from the same perspective, they're living in their world where they believe that this is absolutely the way to be and that this is the only way to continue society. And Trump's playbook has been line by line by line by line by line. They called for the removal of DEI, one of Trump's first executive orders. And so, and also, Trump reinstated their executive order, the death penalty. So he has, while this feels, like, oh my God, it's so random and it's so crazy, they've been following a playbook from day one, line by line by line by line by line. And we missed it, a lot of us missed it. And now we're way down this thing. So the question, if we look at the same lens, is they're living in their own world. Oh, there we lost Chris. Hold on. They're living in their own world and in their own reality, and they're trying to collapse us into theirs. Pinky, do you have any thoughts on that while we try to get him back?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Well, the Christian nationalist movement with, with Project, we talked about this, you and I did, and you were looking up some of the stuff, and I sent you the CNN interview from Doug Wilson, where he talks about, I want to make, the country a Christian country and the world a Christian world.
Yeah. So my response is, show me where Jesus said that.
Well, and that's very fair, but I mean, and that is exactly, the point, but that's what they're doing right now, is they're from their Christian nationalism world and they're trying to collapse us into it. They're trying to force uniformity on us by collapsing us into their world and their timeline.
I understand. Yeah. And so, if they can show me where Jesus said anything like that, then I'm willing to consider it. And if not, then it came out of some guy's ass.
Well, and let me phrase it a different way, though. I mean, is even if Jesus said it, does that mean everyone has to follow it?
Well, no, but it means that, if you believe in the manifestations of God, then it's worth considering. Yeah. But the thing is, there's no biblical basis for any of this.
No, but even if there were, we would still be operating off someone's belief system, right? Because, of course, if we, the courses I did take in religion, the Bible is actually a collection of stories that were mostly, told down through oral traditions that were later compiled in the Council of Nicaea, which I think there were two of them, the main ones. And then it was, modified again and again and again to fit the particular agenda of whoever was in control. And so, even if it did say in the quote Bible, go do this, because they're going to say, well, go forward and multiply. And they quote verses all the time, by the way. It's just they're quoting them to their advantage. But even if it did, that only applies to Christians. That doesn't apply to the world.
But I would say, too, who gives a shit what they say? People say things all the time. I mean, shit, we have the Democrat Party platform. You don't think the Democrats have been running off of some kind of plan since they've been around, and the Republicans? Everybody wants a piece of something. Everybody wants to say these things and lay these things out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can say what they want and let it be known. I'm glad that it's out. I'm glad that we get to see what's happening. And you know what? And if our country wants to follow that crap, we're a democracy. Let them follow it. I think it's wrong, and I will fight it tooth and nail. Like someone told me, and I think you were on with me when this guy came on. He said, don't you understand that 77 million people wanted this stuff? And I go, if 77 million people wanted slavery again, I would be against it. And you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. Well, you know what? This upcoming thing, they're going to want slavery, and they're going to put slavery, and it's going to happen. This shit happens. It goes around in cycles, but it doesn't mean anything. No, I would be against it.
Well, I would be against it too, but at the end of the day, I don't want to experience it. That's not what I'm here to experience.
But you know what? Those people that got the bomb dropped on them on Nagasaki and whatever, they didn't want to experience the A bomb. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish any of this shit. What I'm saying is life is fucking tough and hard, and sometimes we have to or are we so fragile and so pampered in our country that we've lost sight of what the real, like when 9/11 happened, everyone said, oh, we joined the the United States just woke up or whatever. No, you didn't. You joined the fucking world because the rest of the world puts up with terrorist attacks almost every friggin' day. It doesn't make it right. And I'm not saying that because of that. I'm not trying to diminish any of this stuff. What I'm trying to say is, look, our forefathers had to experience slavery. Our women had to go through suffrage. Like, our women are still being executed on the streets. Renee Good didn't want to experience what she wanted to experience either. But sometimes shit happens. And that's why we have to follow our truth, and we have to stand up for what is right. What's going to happen? Let's just say tomorrow, Inanna, that does happen. Let's say all of this stuff comes to truth, and we become, what do you call it? What's that fictional place in Handmaid's Tale?
Gilead.
Let's say we become Gilead for the next. Do you think it's going to last? It's going to suck, and it's going to hurt women. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck. And I don't want that to happen. And so that's why we got to fight like hell to make it stop, because people are going to say whatever, and people are going to follow those people.
Well, that's my whole point, is exposing what's happening in our government so we can stop it and not just be like, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I mean, I believe in conscious creation, and I believe that I create my reality. Therefore, I'm not creating that shit.
I believe there's more of us than there are of them. And I believe if we stand up and we fight, and I'm not talking about the voting booth. I think voting's for suckers now. I think this is all like, we need to fight for democracy, like our people like Pinky did when she signed up to go, fight for our country. Like, all of us, we're sheltered beings here at home. It's time for us to start picking up the slack where people like Pinky stood up and actually did something about it.
I got it from my mother.
Right? Like you and I talk about this right all the time. Like, we should be marching on to Washington or pulling that motherfucker out of the White House.
Yeah.
And then making him an example, just like we did with Saddam Hussein.
Or Maduro.
And you can have people go, oh, but he's so nice. Trump is like, he was going to be our savior. Well, there goes your savior. Welcome to a brand new fucking world. Is my world right? No. Am I just like shifting power? Yes. All of that is true.
And the other option is that we all wake the fuck up and we step into sovereignty with optionality and power. And we consciously create instead of create through 3D narratives that only create battle.
I agree.
Division.
I agree.
And so that's kind of that full circle moment back to where I started with the first question, what if, because we know this, whatever you focus on, your energy is going to go where your focus is, your body's going to go where your energy is, right? So you're literally following your own self through life. We know that anytime you feed something, it grows with our energy. Anyone ever seen that experiment with the little plants, that like you tell this one, I love you, grow, thrive, and this one grows and thrives, and you tell this one over here, I hate you, and it doesn't grow. These are, simple concepts, but what we know is if it's true for one thing, it's true for everything on some level. It's just we have to figure out how the science applies.
You forget about the third plant, though, that you say I hate to.
What's that?
It grows bigger and kills you.
Like Little Shop of Horrors.
Seymour.
Seymour. Yeah. But if we look at this from another lens and okay, well, in our reality, the ones that are fighting it, they're NPCs. They're not conscious, they're not awake, they're just running a program. In Dr. Joe's world, we would say is they're unconscious and they're running a program, don't even know what they're doing, right? In like video game terms, we would say like, well, they're just running in the background, they're not even real, they're just making noise, right?
Right.
In field conversation, we would say they're governance controls creating noise, and they're applying pressure on us to get us to do one of two things: either collapse into uniformity or step into sovereignty, which again requires optionality. And that's the big test or moment here is, are we going to step into sovereignty with optionality and curiosity and exploring what else can we have? Or are we going to double down on, okay, well, I'm going to have to collapse them to my way, and I'm going to make them collapse into unity with me, right? And one way collapses sovereignty, and the other way preserves sovereignty. And so that's the question before us, is what are we going to do with this? And the answer from my perspective, the answer is we have to go to where the origin is, and that would be, at least right now, it's the controlling governance of the system, and make the changes there, and not get distracted with NPCs or the people from bleed over from other timelines and trying to get them to see things our way. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to get them to see things our way. Because here's the truth: is we've all been gaslit so much since 2020, especially. It's like, what the fuck is even real after 2020? I even hate to say that, use this as an example, but it is a very accurate example. And everyone that watches that I still have, some legal caregiving responsibilities for my ex and his brain injury. And he has dementia, and he was in the hospital. And, this doctor basically was like, he's fine. And I was like, you're the only doctor to say that. Everyone else is like dementia and palliative care with hospice and whatever. And I don't think he really meant he was fine. I think he just meant that he just wanted to kick him out of the hospital before he was ready to go out of the hospital. And my daughter was there, and we were both there, and we walked out, and she started crying. And she said, okay, so who's crazy, him or us? Because we both can't be right. One of us is crazy. Mom, which one is it? And I said, well, the truth is, this is why we have cameras in our house, and we document everything, and why we have all, the home health providers and everything that we have, is because we're not going to be gaslit into, something that's not true by an authority figure. Because that's exactly what happened, is that neurologist, was like, we're not saying anything that you're saying, even though all the nurses said they did and the other doctor said they did. The one guy in charge was like, he's fine, and it's like, wait, what? How is this? And it caused, Avery, my sweet girl, the one that just came in here, to just, collapse with it, and was just like, am I crazy, Mom? Am I crazy? Are you crazy? Is he really fine? And we just don't know. Like, and I'm like, no, honey, no. But what we just saw was a governance control, right? Gaslight us to make us question reality. But because we've been in this world, that's why we have cameras and providers and caregivers and home health that document things, so that when someone makes us question our reality, we can go back and have an objective look and be like, nope, 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 all this is real. You're just a governance control that is just fucking with my head.
If we choose to listen to them, because since day one, the Native Americans are sitting back laughing at us, saying, dummies. We've been saying that our black brothers and sisters have been saying this about our country
Yeah.
since we brought them over here and we chose
Yeah.
not to listen to them.
Right.
So this is yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Well, and then in this case, he kicked him out of the hospital without a plan. So it did have some repercussions for us. Even though I tried to fight it, I was unsuccessful because they had the deck stacked. But it's that gaslighting thing. So I can, the personal level and the bigger level. And that's exactly why I got called a race traitor this week, was because I was commenting on the reemergence of the Black Panthers, and then stepping up and saying, we're going to accompany people to ICE hearings, and we're going to, be on the streets, and we're going to, what did you guys bring me? I got food.
I love you.
I love you. Thanks, Pipe. We're going to make sure people are safe. We're going to make sure you're not ripping people off the streets.
Yep.
And so that was, why I got called a race traitor this week. But it's that idea that, that's the micro and the macro, and the governance system telling you it's one thing and gaslighting you to the point that you question your own reality. And going back to where Karen was talking about with, the videos, we know, we're not going to be gaslit, but the point is, what do we do with it? And I don't think it's engaging the NPCs, and I don't, because there's no point in, they lack the bandwidth to ever see things through our lens. There's no point in trying to engage the people if there is a multiverse and multi-reality and we're bleeding over in them, because their reality is different. Let them, be. Our job is to get to the governance systems, reduce the noise of the governance systems. By what? By getting people to wake up, by getting people to understand they're being gaslit. And I mean the real people, the operators, the avatars, not the NPCs. People with the ability to that do have the bandwidth, or that are capable of having the bandwidth to wake up, to come out of dissociation, to come out of, default, to be that they've been sleeping, right? To wake up.
I
when
would
enough
say
is there, we hit coherence and we change the ballgame.
I would say they are woken up.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening, yeah. Since I've been stuck in this deep freeze here with, 6-8 inches of snow and an inch of ice on top of that, not much for me to do. I have power, and I have water, and I have internet. Yay. So I've had...
I'm glad you're all right.
Huh?
I'm glad you're all right.
Oh yeah, and full pantry and all of that stuff. Anyway, so I've been ODing on news, and from various sources, and some of it's from the sources that I trust on YouTube, and some of it's sources I trust on TV and that kind of thing. And there are some Republicans who are waking up. Prominent Republicans who are starting to wake up and say, this isn't what I signed up for.
Hey, Pink, did you hear about that Republican? I forgot where. I'm trying to look it up. Oh, it's Georgia, who quit the race and who got out of the Republican Party, saying, this is not who I am.
Well, I didn't think he was from Georgia. The guy with the last name of Madel.
I forget. He has bald head.
Yeah, we could be talking about different people.
Yeah.
But he was going to run for governor, and he said, "No, not with this party." And he dropped out of the governor's race, and I don't know if he's hanging on to his party affiliation, maybe in the hopes that they get that surgery that they so desperately need, that rectal craniotomy.
Yes, exactly.
We have a new guest, by the way. I just added Denise to the conversation.
What's up, Denise?
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I couldn't sleep. It's almost 2 a.m. in the UK.
Oh,
And I couldn't sleep. And I was just, okay, I'm going to join. I'm going to jump in.
I'm glad you did.
Good. Glad you're all the way from the pond. But see, this is, I don't think I'm gonna try to stay within topic, but this is where my mind, where I'm following it. We cannot rely on the government. The scariest thing that I heard today was that Trump and Tim Walz talked, and Trump has changed his tune and is being a little bit nicer about ICE. And all I can think of is this Walz is gonna go, okay, great, and then this fucking Alex and Renee's death will just be swept, for the better and good for everybody. No,
But
our
let's
government does not get to do that.
no.
The
But
damage is
Denise is
done.
from the UK, so let's see what she might have to add because she's not in the United States,
Okay.
Oh, well, you know
and it's
what?
2 a.m. So let's for her.
You know, I just decided to put a wall between everything that is going on, and just, every day I ground myself into the organic timelines.
Yes,
This is my obsession. I ground myself in the organic timelines because I want nothing to do with the other ones.
right.
So, because it's overwhelming, it's everywhere. There is cameras everywhere. There is new laws passing. There is, it's just so much that I just feel like, what do I want to do? Do I want to help them create these timelines, or do I want to actually create the organic timelines? I don't know if you have a different name for it. I call it. That's the only way I know how to describe them. The organic timelines versus the transhumanism timelines. So yeah,
This is
I had
being
to I
reversed.
had to cut out all of the what is going on because I don't know what to do with that. Honestly,
That makes
honestly.
sense. It's backwards.
I know it is. I don't know how to flip it. You just have to deal with it.
There's a little setting you hit mirror.
Okay. Well, you can help me find it in a minute.
A mere coincidence.
Okay. How do I do it?
Oh wait. Well, first of all, you're on. Wait. Well, we can deal with it later.
Okay. So sovereignty plus coherence plus optionality. So when you're talking about choosing your timeline, this is for Denise. When we're talking about choosing our timeline, right? We're talking about anchoring it in. So I want to do one thing here, and my role, and I'm not going to say my purpose, my mission, my destiny, whatever. Those are all collapsing terms. But my role in this is somewhat of an activator. Okay, and that is that I will provide whoever I am working with the activations that they need in order to hopefully align with this timeline where they can be sovereign and coherence and have optionality, because those are the three criteria you need in order to be in an expanding timeline or in an ascending time. Ascending is a common word. Okay, and I'm going to explain each of these in a minute, but I'm going to explain why it's important. And so my role changes. Now, if you ask me as a person, okay, where I meditate, usually 2 to 3 hours a day. I consciously create, and I am well aware that 99% of the things that I would say are my problems in my life are not mine. I mean, I already created an entirely new life. I already created an entirely new body. I created an entirely new body in 5 months that was, 150 pounds less than the old one. It does not have MS. It does not have bone marrow cancer. It does not have, the myasthenia gravis part. It does not have the rheumatoid arthritis or the mast cell. So me, myself, right? I mean, I'm really pretty good in a lot of ways. Me as this person having this experience. I have the amazing blessing of living in a beautiful place, in a beautiful, California is very beautiful. I live in a beautiful home. I hate blessed, and I hate that I used it, but I have been able to create some experiences that are meaningful to me through conscious creation. Okay. Living that truth every day is beneficial to everyone within our timeline because it's authenticity, but it's also exercising sovereignty with coherence and optionality. Okay. I'm using the optionality to step into a container of being a teacher or a healer, okay, or an activator. But that's not who I am. Those are containers I step into. So in other words, I use those containers to step into the timeline to help activate, heal, or teach or inspire other people. And that is where, me as this, expression of field energy gets reduced or collapsed into a container for a purpose, for utility. So when I'm saying these things and I'm having these conversations, it's not me personally because I have created, what I want for myself. What I'm trying to do now is step into that role of teacher, healer, activator for the benefit of others. So not everyone has that role of collapsing themselves into the role of teacher, healer, activator, politician. We could put a million terms in there, but at the end of the day, we're talking about it's a program based. I'm collapsing myself into a program of teacher, healer, activator, whatever, for the utility or the purpose of being of assistance to others. But when I'm not in that role, right, I'm very conscious of the fact that I am truly creating the timelines that I want, and I've created a space in which me personally, I'm really sort of sitting immune to a lot of the things that are happening as me. My issues come for, caregiving and other people. Like my things, I'm well aware that 99% of the things that I call problems in my life are not me. It's the container in which I'm assisting others. And Denise is very far into Dr. Joe's work, and that is the reason I'm using this language, because she'll be able to follow it. For those of you that can't, it's okay. It's a specific language within the Dr. Joe community. And so that's the goal here. So in this role, that I'm doing now, I am hopefully providing, perspective and activations and helping teach and helping people heal, while still living my truth, by creating what you're calling the organic timeline. I'm going to call the timeline, that is here, where we're at authenticity by exercising sovereignty, coherence, and optionality. Why those three matter, right? Because sovereignty, we're all sovereign. That is the ability to exercise, choice in your life. And like Chris says from time to time, like, well, you have the choice to go and, yank someone out of a White House, or you have the choice to not to. You have the choice whether or not you leave your house, the choice whether or not. That's, that's getting into some optionality, but you have the sovereignty to exist, right? The optionality comes from your sovereignty, and it is the choice of, I have the option of going to work or not. I have the option of getting on, Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or not. I have the option of, collapsing myself into a container to be a teacher. The coherence, though, is when we are getting things in a sort of balance. We talk about head-heart coherence. You're going to calm your thoughts, regulate your emotions, drop it down into your heart, right? And then with that clear intention, with that magnetic, signal from the heart, you have the electrical signal, the magnetic signal. It creates that larger magnet that then aligns you to the timeline that you're on. That's how we talk about it in that world. So with that coherence, here's the thing: coherence can be forced upon us through uniformity. Okay, coherence, that similarity must be established with optionality. Okay, and that's why things like the Christian nationalist movement are a problem, is because, yes, it's going to establish coherence. Everybody in coherence, live in the same way, thinking the same thing, right? Everybody's heads and hearts in the same place. So it is technically coherent in that regard.
A family is coherence.
There's no optionality, and there's certainly no sovereignty. Yes,
a family is coherence.
A family is coherence. Well, if it's unless it's a really flat out dysfunctional family. But so your question about timelines and the transhumanism too, because transhumanism is another one of those things where it's this other world, right, that is intersecting with ours. Some people are going to choose it, some people aren't. And I love Greg Braden, and he's being so outspoken about this, about preserving the sacredness of being human. And there will be those that believe that very firmly, and they're going to create, like their own reality with that. And again, we're back to the place of coexisting without collapsing into uniformity, because uniformity does away with optionality. And so you have to, each of us has to ask ourselves, what is my role here? Okay. And Chris, we kind of talked about this a little bit for you last week. I place myself into a container, or collapse my role, to be of help or service, or to fulfill an objective or whatever, every single week by making myself fulfill the role of like a teacher or a healer or a mystic, or even when I do the stuff with a nonprofit, inside of neuroscience, whatever that looks like, that is me collapsing myself into a role and meeting someone where they are. But that's not who I am. Okay.
So
And
do you mean that where are we going to with this ascension process? You know, are we going to see actually the timelines, the separating, and some living in peace and others going wherever the hell they want, not interfering?
well, and that's exactly like the big picture of everything we've talked about is exactly that, because they're not going to, they're separating now on multiple levels. They're separating on a narrative level. They're separating on like a governance level. They're separating on, and by the way, this is all of this is stuff I've channeled over the last 6 days now, of timelines, looking at probabilities, possibilities, how we get there. That's what all of this is. I've been, probably 60, 70 hours building out this to look at timelines and so forth, with everything that's happening. And how do we get there, right? How do we get to what you're talking about with the higher timeline? And I think it's important to remember that there is no there. Okay. There's no destination. It is just more exploration and expansion, or you can use the word ascension. And the question is peace. Peace is something that we create, again, through using that, that clear electrical signal with our thought, with the heart, the magnetic signal of the heart. And we create this, right? And it's always an inside job. It's always. And then we have to find the people on this similar timeline to connect with, to merge with, to be with. And that's when we have peaceful, it's called mesh networks, or coupling within the timeline, or the matrix terms. And that's whenever you have the mesh or the coupling. This is when you start finding people that are of similar frequencies, if you will, like just like Chris and I bringing this to you, we have very similar coupling and very similar mesh networks. And that's why this works. Even though we're not identical, our frequencies align enough that we can create this space where people can be heard. And it's about, expansion and growth and again, sovereignty, coherence, and optionality. But it's not going to be, some people will say, oh, well, it's going to be this big, like solar flash, or it's going to be, no, we are the ones. We are the ones, because we know that in this world, somewhere between 70 and 90% are NPCs. They're not even real. Between 70 and 90% of the people walking around are NPCs. They're just running a program. They got the VR headset on. They're doing exactly what they're told. And Dr. Joe says this, Greg Braden says this, they all say this. It doesn't matter, like the number of people, it matters the level of coherence. But now we know it's more than coherence, because we can have coherence forced on us through unity. It's coherence with optionality. It's coherence with sovereignty. And with sovereignty, that does, it can include power, but it doesn't always. And hopefully it does move into power for you, but not for you specifically, but for all of us, because sovereignty and power are two different things. But this lays the groundwork for power, which lays the groundwork for the most important thing we're talking about here, which is conscious creation. And that is creating the world you want to live in. And as long as we are reducing our options, We're in reductionism. With optionality, we're moving away from it because we're taking away our ability to choose, because we're saying it has to be A or B. It has to be Democrat, Republican. It has to be good or evil. It has to be right or wrong. It has to be blue or black, right? That's reductionism. That is collapsing optionality, which takes us away from conscious creation. So if we stay in optionality, which is I'm choosing to do this, and it is I'm having this experience based on curiosity. What Dr. Joe says, stay curious. Why do you think he says that? Because when you're curious, all your options are open. When you're curious, you're connecting to that void where it is unlimited potentials in the field, right? Coherence we know, but again, sovereignty leads us to this place where you have the skills, the knowledge, the tools, the awareness to know that you are creating your own reality. And to go full circle back to all of this, we're in a place where the NPC noise or the programs or those running default programs are making us believe that we don't have sovereignty and we don't have options. And the only way to get in coherence is through uniformity, to let Trump take over the government or the whole world or whatever leader it is. It doesn't even matter. To let a religious leader, you're looking for a guru, you're looking for a president or religious leader, whoever, right? And that's going to put you in coherence. Sure, maybe, but it's not with optionality. It's through uniformity, which collapses the timeline. It collapses this experience. And then we don't get that branching or that bifurcating that you're talking about where the timeline split, because we weren't ready. Or not good or bad, not judgment, but just we couldn't maintain it because we weren't holding conscious creation, again, through sovereignty, hopefully with power, but coherence and optionality. Does that make sense?
Wow.
There's one thing that I haven't heard you talk about, and I believe that this is what we're experiencing collectively, and that is entropy. That is the outliers.
Yeah.
And
well,
Trump,
coherence and entropy.
Trump is not necessarily an outlier. However, I think he's governed by outliers. And because I think Trump is very much of this reality. I mean, he's not smart enough to not be. But what you're saying, I love and is true. Except when it comes to entropy, then it kind of all goes out the door. I mean, there's a serious evilness here that will be with us no matter where we ascend. If it's not dealt with, and it's cyclical, we'll always be dealing with it because we can't have war without peace, or peace without war, love without hate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's because you're in a duality time frame. I'm not.
Well, that's true.
In this
matrix, there is duality. True.
In this timeline, there's duality. But
True.
that doesn't mean there's duality everywhere. And back to trying to take us out of, collapsing and reduction, right? Because that's what that is because that's putting us into a box of one or A or B. Good or evil, Democrat, Republican, red or blue, black or white.
No, that's not what I was saying, but I understand. But that's not where I was going with war and peace. I mean, it's true. You cannot have war without peace. You cannot have light without dark. I mean, it's true in this reality. But
yes. What Denise is talking about, though, is...
But I'm not talking about absolutes.
Yeah, but what she's talking about is moving to a place where we don't need the compression to get there.
Understood. And that's why I brought up entropy.
Right.
Because even in that reality, there's going to be entropy. There's going to be, and I think that's what this is. If you want to go back to the Lord of the Rings, it's Sauron. Sauron, transcends all timelines. Mm-hmm. He is, am I using the right word? Entropy. He is the outlier.
Entropy is the opposite of coherence.
Okay.
So entropy is the chaos. Coherence is coherence.
Right. And entropy it exists. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it exists.
Well, and from that perspective, right? So if we take that perspective and we look at this not through like an ascension lens, right? But we look at it through what's happening right now. I wish this was not reversed because I would love to draw. Well, whatever. You guys can deal. But it just helps me to see it. If we look at what our timeline, this is just for basics. This is our timeline or our world, okay? So let's say it right now, 90% are NPCs, okay? Okay, but of that, maybe 8% are avatars, okay? And of that, like 1.5% are architects. How do you spell architect? And of that, like 0.3% is going to be, operator here. Operators. And then this one is architects. Okay. And then down here is your 0.2 is your anomalies. Anomaly. My God, do not judge my spelling, people. This is bad. Okay.
It's backwards.
So,
we can't see it.
Oh, well, great. If you could tell me how to flip it, I would do it. I just don't know how.
My point wasn't that my point is if you spelled it wrong, it doesn't matter. It's backwards. We can't
mirror camera. Ha!
Oh, there you go.
Look, I figured it out without you telling me how.
Okay.
Go. But if you look at this, okay, so the whole point then, you can't see the time.
Yeah, it is pretty small.
I don't know how to make it any bigger. Wait, maybe if I could change this for just a minute.
There you go.
How about now? Does that
That's
work?
Perfect. That's
okay.
Perfect.
All right. So when you look at this is our timeline or our experience. Can I move it one direction or the other? If I move it, my chair's hung up.
It's perfect where it's at, I think.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I need to be able to write on it a little more. So I'm trying to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So if you look at this, 90% of the people aren't even real. Okay. Sorry. It's flipped. 90% of who we consider people aren't real. They're not part of this because I'm going to answer your question about entropy. Just give me a minute. Okay. So this means that we're only dealing with this group right here. So out of everyone on this planet, we're only looking at 9% that matter. 9%, because your architects don't, because they're already awake, they're already sovereign, they're the ones creating everything. Your anomalies don't, because they're not even part of the system. Your NPCs don't, because they're just the noise. NPC is noise, okay? So your question about entropy is good, because why is it here? Why is it here? Because for this group to activate, to wake up, to come into awareness, they have to have what? They have to have the compression, their entropy, so they can move into coherence by choice to learn the sovereignty and the optionality.
And that's why Pinky was saying, yeah, there are some maggot scumbags that are actually, waking up and seeing what's happening and questioning their.
Yes. And the more avatars we get to move to operators. So avatars are, we think like souls in a body, right? They're capable of conscious creation. They're capable of coherence with sovereignty and optionality. These are not. These are. The more avatars we get awake, the more opportunity we have from our operators. And that's the goal. And so when you're asking this question about entropy, right? And the confusion, we're saying that it is being used. How do I fix us so that we're back all? It is being used, by the system, because I don't want to big screen, but it's being used by the system, right? Being used by the system as friction. Because we're not growing without it. We're not, growing is the wrong word, but we're not expanding and we're not moving into coherence and optionality and, sovereignty without it. And so that's why the friction is here. But the moment we have coherence with sovereignty and optionality and are consciously creating, we will no longer need the entropy and the friction, because that's the whole purpose of it, is to get us to move into those other states. And once we're in those other states, we don't need it unless we choose it to have, because we fell out of alignment for some reason and we need it to come back in.
Well, and I don't know this for a fact, and it's my understanding that regardless of where you are at in that reality, hopefully I'm saying that, entropy is going to occur. So in what we deem a physical reality, yes,
but there's, there's lots of ways that reality expresses. But also, you don't need entropy to this level. Entropy to this level is high density because of what we're experiencing right now.
True.
And yes, it can be relevant to this branch and to this reality, but there is life and experiences of life in infinite and unlimited ways, and not all of them have the shit show that we have.
Can we go
You know,
back to Atlantis?
to Atlantis, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're reading my mind because I was literally about to say, let's start looking at some of the ancient civilizations that thrive for a very long time. And the question isn't, will Atlantis collapse, or Atlantis did this, Atlantis did that. The point is that they had that experience where they were in, coherence and sovereignty and optionality until they had experienced it all they wanted to experience it. And it's like, well, what else is there, right? And then that timeline ended and a new one began, because we're always in that place where we'll have the experience, we'll do the thing, and then we ask the question, okay, I did this. So what else? Right?
Yeah, it's the God
And
complex.
So we don't need, or just the,
I mean, it's the story. It's in the Upanishads. Sorry, it's the story of God saying, you know what? I've done everything. I'm bored, and I'm gonna make something else up.
okay, so that's putting it in a container. That's putting it in a religious
Well,
container.
it's a story. Yeah.
It's a container. But I'm talking about the idea of consciousness outside of religion in a place of exploration, curiosity.
Hey,
Hmm.
I'm I still have that headache,
Oh,
and
sorry.
I'm
Pinky.
really not feeling all that red hot. So I'm gonna say goodbye for this evening.
Bye, Pinky.
Bye, Pinky. Did you have
And
any parting words? We can shut up and
I
let you have the floor.
hope you feel better.
no, my when I get a headache, my ability to articulate coherent thoughts is just nil. So anyway, I'll just say it's been interesting. Y'all left me back at the bakery like after the first half hour, and I've
We didn't
been
even get to the
listening
executive
and
orders.
struggling, and the headache won't go away. So I'm
Well,
just gonna go ahead and say
okay.
goodnight.
I love
And
you. Good night. And I'll send you healing energy.
Bye,
oh, thank
Pinky.
you, my darling.
Okay.
See y'all next week. Thank
Yes,
Yep.
next
you.
week. Thank you.
Adios.
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 Okay. So I'm going to let you take the floor for a minute, Chris, because I'm going to use the restroom real quick. So
What?
you can.
Whoa.
You got it. You're good. You got it.
I don't know what to say. I'm not as eloquent, or I don't have those. I don't. I don't have similar thoughts as I do to Inanna in a lot of senses. But yeah, where I was going with this about entropy is that the outlier. I believe that throughout all these timelines, ones that we're not even aware of, the infinite number of timelines, I truly believe that Trump is in every one of them at the same time because of entropy. He is working, he's being manipulated by the outliers, and therefore that's why, what's infecting us right now. And that's why I bring up entropy, because what I'm hearing from Denise and from Inanna, and this is not a criticism of what they're saying. I hear what they're saying. They're saying to elevate to, and ascend to another level where these dualities, I guess, don't exist. And I am under the understanding that even if that did happen, even if we were to experience that entropy would still be there. And which is why we have to take care of the issues that we need to take care of, regardless of what reality we're in, if that makes sense.
What do you think we can do, um, other than changing our frequency, to change the frequency of the planet? What can we do against those that are in power,
So
because they have all the tools.
so that's so I don't know if I can answer this in the same way that Braden or Denise, who or Inanna or whoever you've been talking to, but I can answer that in my own way. And there was a saying, Michael Jackson took it, but I think Martin Luther King said it, that if you want, or is Gandhi, that the change can happen within you. I believe that we're all connected. I believe we are all one. I mean that spiritually. I think our sovereignty is like the rays of sunshine. We're all rays of sunshine, if you want to look at that, but we're all connected by the power that I'm using an analogy. So to get down to the to make it really simple, to answer your question, Denise, the way we change is by making the change ourselves and being the change. And I know that sounds corny, but none of this can happen unless we are the change first. I see a connection with Inanna saying that we got to, wake everybody up and bring people up. And I think the one path that I've chosen, this is going to sound silly because I'm famously idiotic and so much naive in a lot of things. So for me to say that I want to be the example, because I have a lot of anger and I have a lot of hate in me, but I think that's part of it. I think it's okay to have anger. I think it's okay to have hate, but we have to be the change. I have to change about this government. And I think why I see a connection with Inanna saying is I do that by sovereignty, by not being gaslit anymore, by saying I am not going to let this government or the people around me tell me what is up, especially when I can see in my own eyes. It's coming to my own, saying that I have the confidence and the sovereignty. I can never say that word, in order to make a judgment myself. And therefore, I believe in that action, I am ascending myself and I'm bringing other people with me. And there's a great book called On Tyranny that explains some of this in very crude ways. But just by me walking down the street, let's just say, with a shirt that says "fuck Trump," the thing isn't about the shirt, and it isn't about what the shirt says. It's about giving other people permission to be confident and to feel and to be sovereign themselves. And that's where the change is. So it has to start with you first.
And don't
Do
forget
you
about the
do you
options.
do you think that at some point the change will come with the parallel society, by creating a parallel society?
The change will, I think the change has to come for there to be a parallel society. And that all has to start with us. I don't know if I'm answering that question right, Ilana.
You did. You did. Because it's always an inside job first.
Yeah, so
Right.
I think that we have to start creating that parallel society, right?
Well, and that's already underway.
I think that society, to be on. So I'm not gonna speak for Inanna, but I know she and I have had this argument in the past about our forefathers here in the United States that built this country.
Oh, God.
I am in no way putting them on a pedestal, but what I do think is that they made a great error, a positive error. They wanted to basically assume power instead of giving it to some faraway place. They inadvertently created a society of progressive people. That's everything good about what America always was. The good diplomacy. I know there's a bad part of America that comes along with it too. But, the things that were good about the United States, the equality for everyone, women, our Black brothers and sisters, our Native Americans, that is all in that document. And it can be interpreted as such. So I believe that society, Denise, has already been established and thrown out there. And we know why I know that is because the world responded to it in a positive way. and we're now collapsing back into it. We're now collapsing back into the it's almost like our forefathers saying, remember, it wasn't all that good. We just wanted to have power, and we didn't, we wanted to be able to tell women and black people what to do, and we wanted to screw the natives out of their thing. It doesn't matter what they thought. It doesn't matter. The matter is we created our society. That's where I was going with this, Denise, that we were creating this other world. And this entropy that happened. Oh, this is where I was going to say too, Inanna, when you were gone. I can't see you anymore. That I believe that that this, just like Hitler, I believe that the outliers that are governing Trump is occurring in every time frame, in every timeline. Sorry, because I believe it truly is entropy. Just like if you want to go back to like I said before, the book of Lord of the Rings, Sauron, it goes through all timelines, and it's something. It's not a bad thing. It could be a catalyst, but it is something that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to share this real quick on the screen.
It was bigger before, and now it got smaller.
You can't see it. In the words of John, I'll read you. In the immortal words of John Adam, our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Just wanted to share that real quick.
But it's what we did with it, I think, that matters. It's what our country did with that Constitution that made us great.
Are you making us great again?
Well, I mean, what I mean by that is hope. Okay, make us hopeful.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna give you my opinion on this. I think that things were hidden, and now you can see everything. There is the corruption was always there,
Yep.
but it was hidden, and now you can see it. So I just think that everything is being exposed because it needs to change.
I agree.
There is not one system in this fake matrix that is not corrupted, and it has not been for very, very long time. From the school system, medical system, law, there is no escape. To me, the way I see it, there is no escape. This needs to be dismantled, and we need to create really something new.
I agree with you. But I also will say that change that you're talking about is we're standing on the shoulders of people who came before us that fought for that change to happen. You're right. There was corruption. Let's just put it this way. I'm Catholic. I grew up Catholic, right? The Catholic Church, corrupt, right? As a system in this matrix. It's full of corruption and bad people. But you know what? I grew up with a bunch of Catholics that it doesn't matter. You can take away that term Catholic or not, but they helped people. They cared about people. They loved. They lived by Jesus's 2 commandments, right? Love one another as I have loved you. And you could feel that love. They had nothing to do with corruption. They had nothing to do with any of that. So yeah, the church was built as a political instrument against the people. But sometimes out of that shit, good things do happen. And just like out of our corrupt system, we were becoming progressive. Why else are we experiencing what we are experiencing now? Because the old school, the evil in this country, they've had enough. They want it back. They want their corruption back. They want to put people in their place. This is their last dying breath. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's going to happen again because we're going to win out.
Okay. So to look at that and to expand on what you just said, from the paradigm of ascension or creating the new timelines or parallel, societies that Denise is talking about, what we're talking about is moving from a third density, right, into ideally more of like a fifth density or higher. When you're talking about entropy, you're talking about moving from order to disorder. Okay. Now here's the thing, and I'll kind of move it. We all want to be what's called conscious creators, right? We want authorship over our own lives. We want to be able to say what happens to us. We want to be able to manifest that job, that relationship, that health, that whatever. And that's why we say in my own life, I do consciously create. I've done this. I know what it feels like. I know what it's like to live it. It's a very empowering and wonderful experience. And that's why I try to help others learn how to do it. But to be the conscious creator, these three things must be necessary. Okay. And that is your sovereignty, your coherence, and your optionality. Now, what happens? What happens if everybody steps into conscious creator in a single moment before they're ready? It's like, what happens if everybody can create whatever pops in their head without having going through the refinement or the friction to learn how to use that power responsibly? Well, we see abuses, we see systems collapse. We see people get hurt because they don't have the experiences to be conscious creators, because they're just creators without being conscious. If you think about it in simple terms, it is the difference between when you get on the TV show, How the Lottery Changed My Life, and the very next episode is The Curse of the Lottery. They hit a point of alignment, they won $2 million to $200 million. And it actually ruined their lives because they didn't base their prosperity on consciousness. It was just like a moment of hitting, just a moment of hitting. And so then they did not know how to use the money responsibly. They got taken advantage of. They got ripped off, whatever it is. They weren't prepared for the power they held. Okay. So when we're talking about entropy, which is, order to disorder, we're talking about the opposite of coherence, which is ordered patterns in the field. As we move as the collective, and again, 90% are NPCs, so we're only talking about that 8% that have to move into creation, or at least coherence. These are individuals that are waking up, that are coming out of false programs, or programs are, this is your entropy, governance programs or governance controls. And I'm not about the government, that's one, but governing control. This is your entropy. These are programs. This is what gives you religion, government, health, race, whatever it is, your gender. These are things that limit you. They give you the friction. They move order to disorder for giving you the experience of moving into more, again, of the sovereignty, optionality, and coherence. So that when you do, quote, win the lottery, you don't end up on the very next episode of How the Lottery Ruined My Life or The Curse of the Lottery. Because we have to know that we can trust ourselves with this level of power, that it's not just creation, it's conscious creation. We're aware, we're alert, we know. Okay. And so when you're saying, well, the entropy, well, yes, the entropy will always be there as long as, we're in some kind of construct in which we are expanding and growing, but it doesn't have to be in the form of the governance controls that it is right now. And so as we're moving from, third density into fifth density, right, this gets stronger. And if we take it in terms of good versus evil, it's getting stronger because it is providing us a narrative scaffolding as well as a framework in which we can actually get the friction to get us all to stop dissociating, sleepwalking, being, living by default, by just living within these little programs of a governance system, into sovereignty, and then moving through sovereignty to down here to conscious creation. So entropy disorder, order to disorder isn't a bad thing. It is the friction necessary to give us these experiences. But the more we step up here, the higher this gets until we hit, that fulcrum moment, right? That lever. And that is when we get more people sovereign, and then it lessens.
And I would argue that I don't even know if I have the words to say this, that if you look at those things that you pointed out as governance, would you say governance?
Well, they're controlling.
Governance control.
Yeah. And I don't mean, that's not government. It's friction.
There's a great movie, and
Friction.
it's a great movie, and in that it was Timothy Robbins, Jacob's Ladder. It's a great, and he talks about death, and he was seeing demons throughout the whole movie, and until he realized at the end of the movie, he goes, they weren't demons, they were actually angels trying to release me from this planet, to death, because it's about Jacob's Ladder ascension into a higher plane, and yeah, you can look at those as governance control, or you can actually look at them as liberating factors. I can look at each one of those and I can tell you, yeah, there is a duality there. But if you look past the controlling parts of it, like I said before, religion, politics, health, race, it's actually freeing. They actually allow you to get to that fifth level. There's steps.
I think so. I think I agree with you on that. Like, if you take your power back from all of
Yes.
those, yes, then you find more and more of your sovereignty. Yes, I believe that. Yeah.
Yes. But we have to be willing to let go of that individual identity, and through Dr. Joe's work, what is it we say? In order for you to, go cross through the eye of the needle into the void, no one, nowhere, no time, no place. These are all going to anchor you into a reality. Every one of these are going to anchor you into a reality.
Right. If you allow them to anchor, if you don't see them as a liberating force. Right.
Well, I mean, they're containers. It's just like, okay.
Jesus went, like, I'll use a parable, and I only use this as a parable. I'm not talking about Jesus as a true thing, but it's a story that I happen to like and agree with, that Jesus went into the temple, flipped over the tables, and said, basically, you dudes have this all wrong. And that's what I want to say to people that follow these things.
Yes.
You're not getting it.
What I would say to that is that these are expressions of a governance control. But when you are in, sovereignty, coherence, and optionality, these things are options. They're not controlling you. They're not duality, right? And so you're, in other words, you're choosing a container for an experience, but you're not, like, I think we're saying the same things, just different words, right? Because this is a control. This is control. This is your,
it can be.
No, this is what I'm saying is, you're talking about something else that falls under this. You're not using religion as a container. You're using an experience as a Christian. You're not using the U.S. government. What you're talking about is creating a system where people work together. You're not talking about the healthcare system as it is. You're talking about exercising, sovereignty, coherence, optionality as a conscious creator to create a system that promotes health.
Actually, what I'm saying is maybe we're saying the same thing. What I'm saying is, if you look at the government as a system, there is language in there, especially in our government, not anywhere else, that shows unity and coherence. If you look at religion, there's language in there. Jesus saying, love one another like you should ourselves. There's language in there that talks coherence, that isn't controlling. If you look at race, the same thing. It's all just a matter of how you look at it. You can cling on to, people use those things in order to govern people, because, like, sex, you could put sex in there too, right? People use sex in order to govern and to manipulate other people, because that's just what this construct allows.
Well, except for orgasms, which are actually like something that can jump you up really quickly.
My point exactly.
Or orgasmic meditation is a very real thing.
But and I agree with you, and that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's why I brought the story of Jesus flipping it over and saying,
"Oh shit, I'm gonna get the weirdest messages tomorrow."
So that's my point. I hear you that those are governance controls, but governance by other entities and other things posed. But if you can see through that, if you can see the beauty, like in the book of Thomas, where they asked Jesus, "Where's heaven?" and Jesus said, "Heaven's right here. It's just for those of you who want to see it." I can't believe I'm bringing up these Jesus things, and I'm so not a Jesus guy.
I know, but again, we're kind of talking about the same thing. But the thing I'm trying to really establish is that These are containers that must be exercised through, sovereignty, coherence, and optionality for
In order
creation.
to see it through it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you're saying see through it, and I'm saying not use it as a container, because
Got
this
it.
is friction, right? This
Right.
is friction. But what you're talking about, I would actually say that the teachings of Yeshua are actual conscious created teachings.
I would say so too.
He didn't establish really any kind of religion, and he certainly wasn't Christian,
He was a Hindu.
but then we're in a container, right?
Well, the
And
Hindus would say, yeah, Zen and all that would say, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's all about not having a container.
Right. That's what my point is. The containers limit us. The containers are part of the friction. So we have to be careful whenever we're going to, like even right now, what I said, I'm dropping into a container for a reason, but I'm not going to identify as my container that I'm using right now. I'm very clear on who I am. I'm also clear that I'm using a container. Language is a container. It is the least effective form of communication we have is language, spoken language, written language. It is the least effective form, but we use it because it's what we have, right? So we drop into a container for the purpose of exchanging really important ideas and information, knowing that the language can never. How many times do I wish I could just give what's in my head to someone, right? Because there's no language for what it is.
That's why math is the answer.
Math is pretty much a universal, I'm not gonna say universal truth, but in this particular branch, it's
a language.
Truth.
Math is a language. Yeah.
Well, it's actually based on what I'm getting in the downloads over here. It's above language and more into symbolism with patterns.
Communication.
Yes, you're right. So all of that to say that we have to avoid anything. Now, just to say, I love being female. Like I have no problem being in a female container, but I also know that's just a container for this experience, but I'm choosing it. And that's where it becomes part of conscious creation, is that I don't feel like it's forced on me. I'm not trapped in it. It's not a container that defines me. It's a choice to experience it in a meaningful way. I hope that made sense. Denise, since he had to step away, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm loving it. I love all of this.
I'm glad we're keeping you awake all night. Yeah. So, but this is the kind of, I did a podcast. I don't remember what day. It was just a few days ago, but Chris wasn't with me. And I spent like 3.5 hours mapping all this out.
Yeah.
Well, this plus more. And so, I've been through all of these, moments of like, I call them a rebirth because I don't know what to call them, but activations or downloads, whatever. I thought the biggest one I would ever have in my life was April 19th of 2025. And that one was nothing compared to the one I've been in the last several days. Whereas all this information about our branches and avatars and operators and architects and anomalies and the NPCs and the 2016 reset that we had, and right now we're in what's called a shearing. And a shearing is a test for a fork to see because what you're talking about with, moving from like here to here would actually be a forking in the timeline.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, how much more can this, what's the viability of this branch with everything that's happening without having to force the fork before it's time? And so we are underway right now with a signaling as a part of a pre-attractor movement. And that is what is testing everything. And that is why everything feels so heated and feels so intense. And the density of the branch is increasing so much. And the friction of the branch is increasing so much, is to see if we can push, that 8% of, avatars to operators to unplug from the fake matrix and step into, sovereignty, and then hopefully step into without falling into uniformity, because that's the real risk there.
Do you think that is possible? Because the way I see it, if people, I don't know, how do people wake up? When Dr. Joe says that people will argue for their limitations, they cannot accept information that is,
Yes.
yeah. So how do you see people waking up if they are not interested?
Well, so here's what I think is, and I don't know what Dr. Joe believes in this regard. I don't know that he's ever spoken about it. I know some others who have, but when people argue for their limitations, I do believe mostly they're in the NPC role and then a
Okay.
non-sovereign avatar. And so
But
that's
the
because they're,
NPC, sorry, the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
NPCs also have a soul, right?
So there's a lot of different definitions of NPC, and what I will say is I do believe most of them would be everything's field energy. I don't want to use soul. I will say everything comes from the same source in the same field. That can be expressed as a soul. That can be expressed as, sometimes we have what are like multi souls, and sometimes we have things that are soul fractures. And so I don't want to anchor myself to the word soul, but what I will say is we all come from the same field of energy expressed, in individual beings and cats and, trees and everything. So, but those that are NPCs, they're the background noise. And so I do believe that's who he's mostly talking about when he says this, is they'll argue for the limitations. They're not going to wake up. But that's also and I don't want to speak for him, but I will say he does say this. It's not the number. We don't need 90% of the people on the planet to move into this coherency. All we need is that, a small part of that 8% that are the avatars and the operators. So instead of 100% of people, we need 8. If we can hit that number within, that 8%, everything shifts, because it reduces the friction, the entropy. It increases coherence, it increases the bandwidth, so that loosens the governance controls on our planet, giving people the ability to actually see, like, what Yeshua said, let those who have eyes see. Well, not everyone has eyes to see, and that's what we're talking about here. It would be changing so that they have eyes to see. That makes
Well,
sense.
let's hope that we get those numbers.
Yes. And,
Uh,
historically speaking, everyone's, always said it's 144,000. That's not something I've downloaded personally, but that's a number that people keep saying. And I don't know if that's the truth or not, because Spirit has not told me that, but I do know it's a small number. Okay. So whatever it is, whatever the population is in this particular branch, which may not be everyone on earth, because we're multiversing here, but whatever it is, 90% are NPCs are irrelevant to it. If we can get, just a portion of that 8% that are avatars to operators to wake up and to hold coherence in a single moment, we've changed it. We have
I th-
hit the
yeah,
lever.
but I thought the change is inevitable, right? Moving from the 3D to that 5D is inevitable, right? Come
Well,
on, tell me. No?
here's what I'm going to say is that in order for us to have the experience, right, it has to be a choice. Optionality.
Okay.
This one right
Okay.
here. Okay. So from my perspective and my timelines, it's absolutely inevitable, because I'm
Okay.
going to choose it. I'm going to use optionality to choose it. But what about and that's why we split, right? Those that choose it get it. So it's inevitable for those that are choosing it, because they're using optionality for the choice to have it. But it's not, you can't drag someone into ascension. You can't force them into ascension. You can't bully them into ascension. And so those that are, that aren't ready, that aren't awake, they're NPCs. It's not inevitable for them.
You know what? I'm gonna bring up something that you taught me, and that is we're already there.
Yeah, we are.
And
We're
that's
just
the
unfolding.
that's the silliness of, I always wanted to bring this up to you when you come to this point, because there's no change. We're there. We're in the 5D.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of, I don't want to diminish it by saying it's a matter of consciousness, because you had already said that. Like that's why the choice is there. Like we are already in that kingdom.
Yep. So then
So
that brings up an interesting point. What is the difference between here and there, other than your focus and your awareness?
right.
Because that's the difference.
Choice.
Because if we look at it as right now, you go to your TV or to your tablet or whatever you watch TV on. right? And you can only really watch one station at a time. You can watch, make something up here. I don't watch TV. TLC. Is that even still a channel anyway?
No.
But you can watch TLC, right? So you're turning your channel, your option, using your option. So right there in that moment, you have the sovereignty because you know it's you have you have your body, you have your iPad or your TV, and you know coherence, meaning that you're capable of thinking the thought and using your hand to do it. Your body and your mind are in coherence to execute that. Optionality is which channel you're going to turn into. Are you going to turn into TLC? Are you going to turn into Real Housewives of something? Are you going to turn into a sports show? Or what are you going to tune into? So the question then becomes, what reality are we tuning into once you are, and we pretty much everyone that is a an authentic soul in this process is going to get there, because it is, whether it's now or in 2 billion years, you get there, right? And so the question is, what are we doing with our optionality? And that is, which reality are you tuning into? And we tune into a reality by focus and awareness, which is again why we have to stop being dissociated. We have to stop being asleep. We have to stop being in default programs. And so by using, your focus and your awareness, which by the way, focus is in, awareness is out, focus is in, awareness is out. We align to, or we tune into, or we experience whatever reality that we are focusing and aware of at that moment. And so this is why if you could hit that sweet spot in your, your focus and awareness, you could look outside your house right now and see dinosaurs from, however many millions of years ago, because that time is available to you now, because all time is now. All time is now. We have established a linear time framework with which to create this space, to have these experiences through friction and sovereignty, as we, have this, again, the experiences and the experiment, right? As we do it. But the truth is that whatever, all time is now. So wherever your focus and your awareness goes, that is the reality you're going to have. So even in all of this, we are still just having an experience of an unfolding to present linear time, to have an understanding of something that we already innately know within us. It's just so we can, you already, like the show on the Matrix, the Oracle offers Neo a piece of candy, and he says, you already know whether I'm going to take it or not. I'm not going to take it. So are you offering it to me? And she said, no, it's the reason behind the choice to take it that matters. Right. And so it's, for all of us, it's how we got there. It's how we learned. It's how we explored. It's how we grew. It's how we learned. It's how we loved. Because all time is now. So we exist in every state possible. But it's our focus and awareness that allows us to experience it through the construct we've created in the simulation of linear time.
Yeah, we may all be aware in this 3D dimension, but at the same time, we're NPCs in the 5D.
Fifth density doesn't have NPCs. There's no reason to.
But yet, they exist.
In other dense. So your density, right?
Oh, you're not talking about those are the density. I don't even know what densities are. I thought the dimensions are. I thought you were the levels. Is it the same thing? Am I?
No, they're slightly different. But the density includes the part of the thing. The density includes also is how much of this is present. But here's a fun fact that in my massive amounts of downloads that I have, this particular branch that we're in right now is one of like 11 million branches that we've experienced. As far as density goes, we are the 17th. This is the 17th time this branch has ever experienced this density. And this branch it goes back to, let me see my paper, 14,000 years ago. So this particular branch of the simulation that we're in, it achieved identity 14,000 years ago. It's had 7 resets, 13 forks. We've had 1 soft export. We've almost been wiped out 3 times, but intervention happened as we went through it. So in 14,000 years, this branch has existed, and we have been moving through these experiences. And through exploration, our goals are sovereignty, optionality, curiosity, reversibility, and non-collapse for exploration. But for conscious creation, it's the 3 things limited there.
Here's a little side question. Have you heard of a TV show called Foundation?
No.
So you know Isaac Asimov?
No. I don't know
he's
actors.
No, he's a writer.
Oh no.
He's
I should know writers.
Asimov is a mathematician, and
Okay.
he's a great writer. And yeah, he wrote these books called Foundation, and it kind of you're kind of like talking that language in a way. I mean,
Probably not.
It's all kind of related. But I want to go back to you. I want to open the question up to you now again about your multiple timelines coming into this one. I want to go back to that question since we just gone through all of this, because I think it's relevant, and that is, again, since all these timelines exist,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just having an intersection of what? I don't know. It doesn't matter. A times B. And how do you proceed from there? Knowing that there's an inevitability that we're going to ascend.
And I don't know the question.
How do you proceed? I want to you threw out the question. I'm interested in, and since we kind of like talked about,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is all relevant to exactly what you were talking about. So I want to really answer your answer to the question.
Okay. Well, from that perspective, right? This, instead of being more like this, which I'm just going to erase this right here, it's more like the vertical time thing that branches, right? And it branches and it branches, and if I had 1,400 years, I could continue to draw this thing, that just keeps bifurcating and bifurcating and bifurcating and bifurcating and bifurcating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing is the branch that we're on. This whole thing is our branch, right?
Exactly.
But within the branch, because the branch is not a singular, right? It is a multi. And so every one of these, creates like its own little world. And then sometimes what happens is this one and this one intersect. We're still the same branch from the same tree. But whenever we have, this, it's like a bleed over. And it's the opportunity for us to decide in this moment, are we going to, everybody collapses into this one, right? Or can we continue to be separate? Are we going to collapse into unity or uniformity for the sake of coherence or sovereignty? And so from my perspective, based on just my very limited understanding of this, would be the answer is to realize we're sharing a branch, but we're in completely different worlds. And I don't mean perspectives, different worlds. And to stay focused on, like what Denise is talking about, the organic timeline you want to create, and not get pulled into a container of noise. Because now you don't just have to compete with your containers of noise, you're competing with their containers of noise, right? And so that increases the density or the noise that pulls us into, we're powerless, we've got to, everything sucks, gloom and doom, the world's ending, it's the end of the day. Pick your container, pick your governance program. All of those programs are here for one reason. And that is, again, to give us friction, to make us wake up. The saying, nobody changes until they get tired of their own bullshit. This is the friction is that, and I always like, I use myself as an example all the time. I mean, I don't know how much I've talked about this, but publicly, and I'm going to be really careful because I know we're streaming, but I can tell you the two defining moments I decided to change, not heal, change. One was in the late 2023, before I guess was right as the time we were coming to California. The other one was April 19th of 2025. And I sat there in that moment, ready to leave, ready to make a permanent decision, if you follow. And I had the means, and it was in my hand, and I was ready. The one thing I knew is that life would not continue the way it was, not because really I was powerless or I was sad, I was whatever, because I had already gone through the physical transformation. I was already living in California. I had already, created a body without the disease. I already lost 150 pounds. It's that I wasn't looking at the thing that was really wrong. Right. And it took looking at the thing that was really wrong and saying, I'm not going to live. I fully believe in reincarnation. I'll know it just pop back out somewhere else, or I'll pop to a parallel timeline where I'm me, but I'm not going to do this anymore. It took that moment of being done, and I do mean done, for me to wake the fuck up. And that's whenever, I really feel like I started living a more sovereign life with optionality, because I had the sovereignty and I knew how to be in coherence. I was trained. What I didn't have was the optionality. And it was the optionality that made me leave my marriage. It was the optionality that made me start making other decisions. That's what made me a conscious creator. And so when we think about that, this is optionality, right? Because we can be forced into coherence through unity, right? Everybody's going to collapse into this one branch and we're all going to be good old Christian nationalists. Or we could use our optionality. And like you said, every time I wear a t-shirt, right, I'm sending them as, yes, you're giving someone permission to choose. That is so critical right now. To choose. And that's the problem whenever people start saying, well, stop talking about it, just ignore it, it'll go away. That's a choice, but it's not the choice of your timeline. It's a choice of uniformity. It's a choice of being told what to do. It's a choice of a program, a governance control. It's not the choice of sovereignty or freedom or power. And so that was the moment for me. And that's the moment collectively where we all are, right? We have a choice to make and we get to choose. And optionality is the freedom to choose. But if you let people collapse your options, is it really a choice? And so, the people that are just saying, we'll stay home, don't go out there, don't speak up, don't get mad. You're reducing options. And without options, you cannot have authorship. And authorship is another word for conscious creation, by the way. But in order for us to have authorship, we have to have the coherence, which is, our systems have to be in balance with each other. We have to have the sovereignty, which we already have by default. Power we bring back through authorship, but it's optionality that is so under recognized. No one talks about it. No one looks at it, but it was an optionality that is really the path that can set everything right. It's knowing you have the choice. We have the choice to say no to the government. We have the choice to say, no, it's not okay. We have the choice to look and see where other people are exercising sovereignty and power and optionality. And every time that we do that, we're making a choice and we're refusing to collapse in on this one branch for coherence at the cost of optionality, coherence at the cost of sovereignty.
And these rights we have are inalienable. And those rights are.
So see that all they did was, no one can give you your right. So the government, the founding fathers didn't do anything because no one can give you that. It's yours.
Well, that's what they were saying.
The illusion of giving it to you.
Oh, wow. I didn't.
How many conversations have we had about this and you just now caught on?
No. That's no.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I to dismiss the way you're thinking, because that is an interesting take, but no, that's not what was said. That's not what was said.
They gave you your rights by recognizing your rights. So the illusion of recognizing your rights.
Because those rights were never given by others, by any country of that
Because
time.
no one can give them to you. They are yours.
Which is why they stated that.
Which gave them a control system used today.
No,
giving the
no.
illusion.
Again,
No.
I'll say yes. Others use that. Yes.
I will fight you. I will fight you. I just had a quote up there about how the Constitution only applies to Christian religious people and no one else.
No, that's what they said. I can say that too. I can say quite the opposite.
Not the Heritage Foundation.
But you know what I'm trying to say is, I mean, we could all say anything. The Constitution is a flower pot full of sand.
John Adams said it.
Wow.
John Adams.
No, I get what you're saying. That's interesting.
That it's like the person who gives you something that was already yours and is like, here you go. Right. And then they create a hierarchy system. They're the founding fathers. They're up here. And then we're all pledging allegiance to the flag.
That's an interesting. I think the context is different. I think the letter that was written where that stated is a reminder, not a edict. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Let me remind you what they are. Mm-hmm. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We think this is non-negotiable.
What does that mean?
Well, come on. At that time, yes, it meant 18-year-old white man who owned slaves.
Right. No women. Just because you land a boat somewhere, I'm just saying they just landed a boat somewhere and they enslaved a bunch of people.
Well, and they purposely excluded slaves, and they purposely excluded women and children, to be honest with you.
Right.
But that's not what. But that's not what we take out of it.
But you don't.
I don't think our country. I think our country is moving in a direction that was totally opposite of that, of what you're saying. President Biden was actually helping the Native Americans gain back control of their sovereignty.
Right.
He was also doing the same thing for women. He was trying to create a business out of, and by the way, I'm a Republican. I'm not a Biden. I didn't vote for him. But I do see that he is going to be one of our great presidents if we ever make it through this, because he was trying to build on progressive ideas. He was trying to move this country into a new era, not one based on oil, but based on renewable energy. I mean, that took some guts, and that's why he was hated. I mean, the evil that is in this country, I don't even call it evil. It's just old. It's the old guard.
It's controlling systems.
Exactly. They want to take it back, and they're going to take it back. Every time they're going to try to take it back. And we got to ignore them. You go sit over there. Actually, I will take it back. I don't think you should. Actually, one of my posts was, the problem what we're in today is because we did ignore them. And we didn't discuss with them. We didn't allow them into the discussion. We just went ahead and just did whatever we wanted to do without consulting these people. And you know what happens? That is oppression.
Well, there's balance in everything, because we don't want to feed the system that we don't want, but we also can't disconnect and spiritual bypass it.
Yep.
That's why it's called conscious creation or authorship.
Okay, so what about the contract? Everything is contractual, right? If we don't enter into a contract, but they tricked us, everything is contractual. We have to sign contracts with these to live on this planet. So they tricked us to accept their rules, right?
So, okay, good question and great place to go. So, and I don't know where Chris's baseline of knowledge is with this, but this goes into a lot of different levels within our construct about about contracts, and one is that, from the moment you're born, you have these contracts that are placed upon you. Some are like the straw man. I'm not real familiar with that one. I do know someone who
Yeah.
actually went to jail trying to use it though. And then you have the ones regarding your social security number. You have the ones regarding, if you get a birth certificate, then that's a government contract that gives a certain amount of your sovereignty away. And there's two. Spirit is like very clear on this. There's more than one. We don't ever reduce anything. We don't collapse anything, but we're going to just really talk about two right now. Thoughts here. One is that for any contract, consent must be given. Okay. And so you can believe you're in a contract because you believe your consent was implied, or your consent was obtained through trickery or deceit, but then you are, you're in that contract because of that system, right? Or you can say, I am what's my one of my favorite words ever? I'm sovereign. And that is, I only exist to the contracts I consent to. And that is, taking back your power. And so we have people, and I'm not talking about sovereign citizens versus US, whatever. I'm talking about you. So there are certain things that we do whenever we participate in society. And that is, we pay taxes because it funds roads. We drive on one side of the road to prevent, cars crashing, right?
The Constitution is a social contract, so is lights, stoplights. Like, yeah.
Yes, it's all a contract, but we are choosing to participate in it. Now, optionality. Remember, optionality is right here. Now, sometimes if you go against a social contract like that, the consequence may be you go to jail, but you still have the option. And that's a very extreme example. And I don't even want to think, you shouldn't murder. It's a social contract not to kill each other, right? And so if you do that, then you're going to, be removed from society because you're not safe. But that's not really what she's talking about. She's talking about the contracts, regarding the governance of humans. And here's the thing, though, what you're seeing as contracts are here. They're the programs, they're the controllers, they're the governance, they're the friction. And that's just another container. So what you're seeing as contracts are just another container or a program. And so, we're giving away sovereignty to a program. And so that's not a problem, because that's exactly how we remember our sovereignty and we reclaim our power, is because of the friction placed upon us by the program or by the controller here. So contracts would just be one of these. Does that make sense?
I have to share two stories.
Okay.
I
Wonder what else I got for food. That taco was good.
I always share this
Oh.
story because I think it's funny, but it really has become, and I've been saying this about me since I was a kid, but I think I say it for a reason. I think I even told you about it. So I believe that before I existed on this plane, that I was in bliss. I said I was sitting on a beach on a lounge chair, and then some jackass came up to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I have an opportunity for you. You can go and you can experience this reality, and the only thing is that you'll die." And I said, "Well, shit, I don't really want to do." Yeah, but you'll see beauty, you'll see all this stuff. I'm like, okay, what the hell? Let's do it, right? And I want to find that guy when I leave this plane, and I want to kick his ass. The second thing I want to share is this, and this happened recently, and I think I told you about this maybe about 2 months ago. I was walking home, and I realized, and this could be something you planted into me, but I said to myself, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I trying to get a job to live in this place, in this area, when I didn't sign up for any of this shit? I didn't sign up to play in this stupid society with this money and all this bullshit that people find, valuable. I don't see the value in any of that stuff. I never have. Why am I playing this game? And I feel a lot of that when you're saying what you're saying, because like just because I grew up in a family that I had to go to college and get a degree. Why? Why did I do that? So what? I can make more money? Why? Why? How come I didn't choose in this? But I did. I accepted it, but it was all bullshit. And I accepted it just because I thought that's what people did. And I go to I tell my dad this thing, like, I didn't choose to be born in your family. What if I don't want to be in your family? What if I don't want to be, well, you need to be a success, you need to do this. Really? Do I don't what if I don't give a fuck?
Right. Well, I mean, that's it, because success is a container.
Is
It's a
that true,
program.
Inanna? Is that true that you didn't choose to be in that family? Is that true?
So
Well, yeah, no,
there is.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
Go ahead.
I come from, so, okay, what do I mean by that? Yes, I did biologically come from that family, but, the family structure is way different than it was when I was a kid. So I don't, either I have to choose to accept to be within that family structure or I don't. My dad, for example, my dad loves to teach things. And I would love to get him on the show because he loves to hear himself talk, and he can probably, he's a smart guy. But you know
Do you
what?
think he and I would be able to coexist in a space?
I think you guys have a lot in common, very much in common. Although he doesn't believe in. He's more into the faith thing, and so that's where he'll probably veer off. Yeah, exactly. But he is a very like hippie kind of guy, Where was my point to all that? Well, my point is, like, he goes, I want Chris to understand. I go, are you my teacher? Like the only way you could be my teacher is if I consent to being your student. Otherwise, a teacher does not exist. Right? So, like, I'm done with this bullshit of things that I didn't even sign up for. Why do and I even told you this, what am I fighting for here in the United States? For what? For so somebody else can become in power and just do the same old shit? Like, who cares? Like, send me to a beach in Costa Rica. Turn me over. I'm done, kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway.
So and that's why I said earlier, that I was dropping myself into a container for this moment, of teaching or healing or whatever, because inside that container, we can use another container of language to, express ideas. But outside of that container, I'm none of those things. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a healer. I'm just me as the field expressed, just like you, just like Denise, just like everybody. And there is no hierarchy here. So there is no teacher. There is only exchanging ideas. And some people will need to reduce themselves to the container of teacher or healer or whatever, because that's organic, that feels right. But at the end of the day, it is just an exchange of ideas. Now, because what Denise I think was asking too about the family is that there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens, and sometimes that container, which by the way would be a container, can be helpful. And I say this as a medium: if somebody loses their child and what they need to hear is God needed another angel and you shouldn't be sad, and that will comfort them, that's fine with me. But if you tell me that, I'm probably going to throat punch you if I were to lose one of my kids, because that is not going to help me at all. But another form of spiritual bypassing is where we say, well, you have nothing to complain about because you chose your family based on what you wanted to learn. The problem with this is it puts us right back into, collapsing options and duality. You're only here to learn. I think we're here to explore. I think we're here out of curiosity. I don't know that we're necessarily here to learn, because we're old souls. All time is now. So what do we really have to learn that we haven't already learned at some future moment that is the now?
Yeah, I've noticed.
Sorry, that is a great question. So, what are we doing here?
Well,
if we are already, is there such a thing as soul evolution?
I'm sorry, a soul evolution?
Yeah.
I guess
Do
it
you think?
depends on which lens you're going to look through, because technically, your soul, you're already, field energy expressed. So you are already whole and complete as you are. But what you're doing is you're having an experience, and, maybe part of an experiment, right? To have these experiences for some reason. And I don't want to reduce us to growth, because I think that is very much a reductionist term, because then it implies things. We can take that to then original sin, and we can take then, then we're back to a religious concept or our construct, of original sin, and not being good enough. And then we're falling back in some of those old programs. So I don't know that I personally believe it's about growth anymore. I think it's about curiosity. I think it's about what else, or I think it's about what more. I think it's about an experience itself, not growth, or not, lack of growth, but just an experience away from, and this is where I'm going to divert just a tiny bit, by the way, probably from Dr. Joe, is that we've already experienced singularity. We've already experienced coherence, right? That's that first little photon, Big Bang. And then is there anything else? And the field grew and expanded, and we became all these different diversities of field energy. We became individuals. We became, mesh networks and couplings, and we became different branches, and we became what we perceive as different planets, and we became, different solar systems and trees and water and all of these things. I don't think we're all trying to walk ourselves back to oneness. I think that takes away optionality, and it takes away choice. And so I believe the goal here is to continue expanding into diversity while maintaining coherency, optionality, and sovereignty. It's not reducing us back to singularity like what we've believed for so long, because that's backwards. We've already been that. Why would we want to go backwards? Why would we want to go back to what we've already been? We already know that, right? But if we see this as, just an experience in sort of like an evolution, then we take away the idea that I have to grow in order to ascend, or I have to grow in order to be a better person, or I have to grow so that I can get away from original sin. And it becomes more about the experience and the evolution of singularity with coherence into diversity of unlimited expression with coherence and sovereignty. And me personally, I believe that's the goal. I don't think we're moving back to singularity. I think we're moving into unlimited expression in coherence and that requires the optionality that's been missing so far from a lot of our teachings.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think, oh my God, mark the date and time, somebody. 7:58. He agrees with me.
I agree with you on a lot of things. I just don't know if I would say it in the terminology.
Mark the day. I want someone to mark this. I'm gonna
I
pull
wouldn't
this off.
say it. I wouldn't say it in the terminology, because I mean, coming from a very Zen lens, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's all about we're all expressions. Like I said, we heard the other day that we're all like rays of a sun, emanating from the sun, and each, we're just dancing. And I think that's, it's to live out your expression the fullest you can, the way you want to, because
The
we're
way
all,
you want to.
yeah. And yeah, enough said.
Well,
Okay,
we'll
so
have an experience. Go ahead, Denise. Sorry.
I have another question then.
Adam
I
said
have
9:59 in
yeah.
Oklahoma.
I have noticed that there are so many people facing really difficult challenges. Is that the timing that we are so many like some serious health conditions, they became like plagues,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Is that something? Why are we experiencing so much of it?
How deep do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Let me grab my timeline, and I can probably do a tiny bit of justice to this.
I have a quick answer, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to take over what you're saying, because while you're looking for that, I think I think plagues and things like that. How do I? Oh, now that I did this, I have it in my head.
See, language is the
That
least effective form.
yeah, it's first of all, I think plagues are a pushback on man's arrogance, or humans' arrogance, and what do you call it? Hubris, to think that we could stop death. And if human beings make up all this medicine and all this crap and trying to cheat death, it's yeah, okay, I'm talking Newtonian, but it's the pushback is going to be great. Therefore, you have epidemics and you have plagues. The other reason why I think plagues do exist is because, well, one more time, because we're a cancer on this planet. And we somehow, this planet has to shake us off. Because we come from this planet. We people, we're like apples from an apple tree. We people from the earth, right? And the earth knows exactly how to control us, even though we think we're controlling it. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers it for me, like why the plagues and why the health problems and issues like that. You know, we're supposed to live out our time the way we're supposed to live out, not try to cheat it with through these other avenues of cheating death. That I'm done.
Okay. I don't believe in cheating death because I don't believe death is real. So, death is just one more experience in this. We know that
Well,
we're
that
eternal.
To that point, but I think man thinks, yeah, they're trying to control they're trying to play the marionettes on death. Because that's true. You're right. We don't want to die. Why? Because you don't understand it. Yeah, it's just, let's try to prolong
which is a program, right? Fear around death, mostly due to religion.
I would say it's a governance control. People probably use death.
A governance control. So, because the timelines, because I've just been really working hard on this, but if we look at 2012 is when we entered a very unique time, and it's called a soft reset. And resets in our timeline happen whenever the group itself needs a shift. So like what you're talking about when we're talking about splitting from 3 to 5, right? The ascension timeline is kind of like this, but that's actually more of a forking. But a soft reset would be something happens and
you know how I like forking.
Actually, I wouldn't, but I appreciate the joke all the same.
That's the worst tasting forking I ever heard.
But looking at this, so we had about 14,000 years ago is when we had our first soft reset around 1200 BC. We had our next one around 800 BC. Around our next soft reset, a reset around 200 BC, and then our soft next reset was around 1492. What happened in 1492? Well, we know
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Ocean blue. That's right. So we started seeing more global synchronization there, and more of a mesh network. So what that means is we move from basically a lot more NPCs into more avatars and operators around that time. We had a major reset around the time of the two world wars, World War I and World War II, because, so much trauma was done. And even though there's still a lot of trauma, it had to be cleaned up a little bit by increasing our bandwidth and reducing some of the governance systems. Now, 2016 is the time that we started another soft reset. This was done, again, anytime this is done, it's done to create more space. It's not done as a punishment or as a reward. It is done to create more space so that we can continue to move from, basically to wake up, to coming from NPCs into avatars or to operators. And it involved, part of it was increasing the density of the branch to increase the polarization, because there is an impending fork. And that fork is what we've all been talking about moving into 5D or fifth dimension, or in this case, we're going to talk about it through density levels. That requires a polarization. Now, the controlling systems right here, okay? The controlling systems hit. I've talked about this. I have clear memories, and I'm not talking about deja vu. I'm not talking about premonitions. I'm not talking about intuitive messages. I remember very clearly Bernie Sanders getting being the nominee and winning the election. And I can tell you exactly where my family was sitting in our living room whenever he was inaugurated. It was clear. And then one day I woke up and we weren't in that reality anymore. That's because we were reset in 2016. Most people don't have the bandwidth to remember a reset. A few of us do. I do know a few people that remember that. Now, the question I would have now is, are we experiencing a timeline bleed over? But either way, it's a reset. Okay. So 2016 was a reset. That reset increased the density in our branch to increase polarization. Again, why? Because the friction of the controls are here to help us move from, the few NPCs that can become avatars, but mostly get the avatars from non-sovereign avatars into sovereign avatars, and those that can to move into operators, and the operators that are capable into architects, so that we can move into authorship. And when we move into that, it then decreases this noise, this NPC noise or governance controls, increases our bandwidth. And that's when we start having the awakenings. That's when people start having, all these moments of like, oh my God, like when you go on a mushroom trip, and you which I've never done any of this, by the way, because I have narcolepsy, so I don't need it to have these kind of experiences. But it's the same effect. You do the same epiphany of, oh my gosh, wow, like, oh wow, so when that happens, your bandwidth is coming on. So the question is, why are people more sick? One is because one of those governance controls was actually COVID. And not just the illness itself. I will die on the hill, metaphorically, hopefully, that COVID was and is a bioweapon. And that it was always released, even when I say that, I'm a little dizzy. It was always meant to impact human genetics, because we know that even through Dr. Joe's work, if you can get through epigenetics, if you can get genes to express downward instead of upward, you create more disease. Therefore, you create more distorted patterns in the body, or more entropy, as we move from order to disorder. As we do that, people's bodies get out of balance. What is one of the biggest things that will cause you to have an epiphany is a life and death situation, right? A disease. Now, some people, they don't have the bandwidth, and so they will exit this particular part of their experience. But remember, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So it's not like they're lost. They incarnate again. And I'm not saying that doesn't create trauma, because I have family who lost family members to COVID, and I certainly am no stranger to loss myself. But what I'm saying, in the big picture thing, stepping back, COVID itself was one of the controllers, but so was the vaccine. It was a huge polarizer, right? If you loved grandma, you took the vaccine. If you didn't love grandma, you didn't. If you loved grandma, you wore the mask, you stayed home. If you were into sovereignty, freedom, liberation, whatever, you didn't. It was the polarization of that part that was the controller, not anything else. But it did have multiple effects on us, as a people. Oh, hold on. She popped. Let me get her back in. As a people, because it created a lot more density and a lot more friction for us. And then you started seeing people, think about how many people in the post-COVID era started questioning things, no matter which side it was. Now Chris went out. They started questioning things, right? Not just accepting the party line. And now we're starting to see some of that filter through our regular systems. And we're starting to see people say, well, what we knew about, hold on, Chris, I'm trying to get you back in here. Because I don't even see you now. There you are. Technology just loves me. Okay. So what we're seeing now is this information coming through that, yeah, we didn't handle, COVID well, we didn't do this well, we didn't do that well. But it wasn't just COVID as it affected our biology, and it wasn't just the vaccine and the masks as it affected the polarization of us. It was also the effects of the economy. So you created economic scarcity. First, you pumped a bunch of money in. You paid people to stay home. You gave them more money to stay home than they made working. So you created a system in which it's like, well, wait a minute, why didn't I always have this livable wage? Right? So now you've created a medical or health system. You've created a political system. You've created a virtue system by whether or not you stay home or you wear a mask or you get vaccinated or whatever. But now you've also impacted our economy. And so after you stop giving everyone all this money, and by the way, I know countless people that earn so much financial strain from taking the PPP money in the United States. And I know you're in the UK and I don't know what that was there, but from taking the PPP money and taking all of this other money because it had this back end fallout that no one really saw coming. And so you had all of this happen. And then you also had the religious implications, right? Because then you say, oh, churches had to close down, blah, 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 blah. So 2016 was the start of our reset. 2020 is when we went through what is really called the controlling intensity of it all. Our goal from 2020 on has been to understand that everyone has their own ability to wake up or not. I guess, the NPCs are questionable, but their own experiences. And these are governance controls, just like what we're experiencing right now with our government is a governance control. So when you see someone who's suffering and you see someone who's lost or you see someone who's sick, the worst thing in the world to do is to reflect back to them, to use your consciousness, your energy, your power, your sovereignty, your coherence, whatever, to say, oh, you poor thing, this is awful. You're suffering so terribly. Now, we don't want to invalidate what they're going through and be gaslighting, you're fine. But what we want to say is, this is really difficult. I honor that you're struggling, but I'm going to reflect back to you that you are strong, that you can not just heal, but change, that, you can, by following, whatever formula you choose here, Dr. Joe's formula or some other one, you choose the one that you resonate with, you can bring, coherence and sovereignty and optionality and reversibility, all of these things into your life. But the problem is that we created these virtue flags where if we don't care for people to the point that we disempower them, and we see them as limited and we see them as struggling, we see them as suffering, we see them as dying, right? Then we're a bad person, which again is another control system. So when we see someone who's struggling and suffering like this, what we want to make sure is we're reflecting back that this is a very difficult experience that you're having, but you are not that experience. That is an experience. That is a container. So let's pull the VR headset off. Let's get you out of the container and let's remind you who you are. Does that answer your question at all?
Kind of, yes.
Kind of. Okay, sorry.
Kind of, because it's just like it's so much right now that it just like begs questions. It's like, is this normal of the time? Is so why it's like personal journey is yeah. I get all of those questions.
Okay. Well, the big step. Go ahead. I've talked enough. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was gonna basically think out loud, and I was gonna say, it might not be this in England, although the UK has their own issues, huge ones, by the way, right now. A lot of it has to do with racism and just personal identity. But here in the States, our planet is sick.
Yeah.
Our planet is sick, and we all live on it. We all come from it, and it doesn't want to be sick anymore. I don't think, because our planet has a very beautiful way of healing itself, and it's our mother. So it's she could be calling us back. I don't know. That's not answering your question, but I think we're seeing all of this happening because we're seeing sick minds, sick bodies, sick actions. And it's nothing new. It's just now because of the media, we get to see it so much in our face all over the world. Like, Denise, you're not even in our country, and you're experiencing probably the same hatred and anger that we're seeing when we see two of our American citizens be executed on the streets. I bet you're sitting there just feeling helpless, and like millions of people across the world are probably doing the same thing. So
Everything right now is so global. I don't think it's anymore like US, UK, or whatever. Everything is so global.
right.
Yeah,
Right. It is. And from this perspective, what we would say is everything from what's happening now to a plague is some sort of entropy or some sort of governance system or controller to correct something. Right. And I don't mean correct it versus good versus bad, but sometimes if I try to put this more in Chris's terms, everything's a little too sick, or what I would say is things are way too far out of balance. So a reset has to happen.
Disease.
Reset out of balance. The patterns in the field are too incoherent. So in order to restore coherency, or the patterns in the field are too distorted. So in order to restore coherent patterns, it's like you have to, go through one of these things, like a reset or a bifurcation or, a forking, something like this. And so those moments of a plague or something like that, or a major flood, would be exactly that. It would be a pattern correction within our construct that allows us to get some sort of, like, almost like an intervention that allows us to reset and start over.
I think we're all part of this planet, and our attitude, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Our mental and physical health is tied to it. And here in the United States, above and beyond the things that are happening to human beings on the streets of Minneapolis, the government just put, I don't know if you know this, but the latest thing was the EPA stopped determining their policies based on how many humans it hurt, and it changed it to be measured by how it hurts a business. In other words, we are hurting the planet that gave birth to us, and we're seeing this. If you notice, I mean, the anger, you see the volcanoes. There's volcanoes erupting all over the damn place. They're blisters. They're blisters on our Earth surfaces. They're the same blisters that happen within us. It's just we're just sick. We're sick. And on that note, I have to go. My cats need to be
it's late.
fed.
Okay, your cats need to be fed, and
So if you're gonna keep on going, keep
Denise,
on going.
You need to go to. Well, it's getting late. It's 8 here, and
4
I don't even know
a.m.
what time
here.
it is for her. 4 a.m. for her. But thank you to everyone who joined us. This was, as always,
Is anybody still with us? You always say like we get all these people like afterwards. I don't understand. Are they?
No, I've got 3. Well, we've had as 20 right now. 3 are watching, but we've had 20, and then on Instagram, I think we've had up to like 40. So yeah.
And we only had me and somebody else on TikTok.
Okay, well that's fine because TikTok scares me. So
But
we have a thing to be invisible there.
We didn't get kicked out.
Okay,
no,
that's
but last
bonus.
time you said you got a whole bunch of messages, or
I
don't
always
know.
get messages. People. So here's the thing on Facebook, like we're streaming like now, you can just watch it without clicking on it. So if you just watch it, it doesn't show you as an active watcher. So it's kind of like the same thing with TikTok. Like in order for you to see that I'm watching you, I have to actually go click on the video, right? So Facebook is the same thing. So a lot of people just watch it in their feed, but they're not clicking on it to make it the main, because you can watch it either way. And so like at one point, I know I was showing 14 people, but we were showing 2. And at another point, I was showing 56 and we were showing like 5. So unless they click on it, we don't see them, but people, are. So what happened is that someone commented on one of my live galleries, and a coworker saw it and reported her to her boss.
Oh, that's right.
So like people will contact me privately because they're afraid of commenting publicly, because then people will know they talked to, you know, Mystic, whatever. And so there's this fear around participating publicly. So I get blown up every single week with questions, but you know, a lot of people are afraid to comment. They're afraid to participate because it's kind of public. And the only way to not do that would be to lock it down. But, you know, then when we do that, then, you know, because I think last week we ended up with over 500 views.
But if they all went on, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, this app, but they can't do that. Restream. They can't restream. Yeah, this has to go through. Right.
So there's the issue is people participating, is that especially right now with Christian nationalism being so prevalent in the United States, there's that fear that, you know, that blowback to, oh my God, you talk to a psychic or you're watching a psychic, or, you know, which is why I'm always like, I have multiple degrees and I'm certified in neuroscience, and I'm, you know, you don't have to collapse me to that container. But that's where the problem comes in with people participating.
Wow. I'm sorry that happens.
It's been happening the whole time. You know, all the way back, every lifetime.
Fucking Oklahoma.
Yep.
Not the people.
Well, everyone,
not the people, the government.
Not the people, the government. Yeah. All right, everybody, have a fantastic night. Denise, I hope that you get some sleep, because I'm starting to feel pretty narcoleptic. So as weird as I've been to this point, shit's gonna get real weird real fast.
I can't. So. I have to take care of my kitty cats. I can't go to sleep.
All right, you guys.
I'm going to sleep. All right.